Ryan, you're free right now, aren't you? Go make me some tea.
Mitchell, my subordinate, gave me an order as if it were the most natural thing in the world, even though I was his manager.
What are you saying? Oh, come on. You went to some third-tier university. So it's only fair that you do something like this for a prestigious university graduate like me.
The room fell into an eerie silence, as if the air had frozen. After 3 years, I had returned to the head office's loan department, only to be greeted by a team that had changed beyond recognition. Among them, Mitchell, one of the younger leaders, wasted no time looking down on me the moment he found out I had graduated from a small town.
Third-tier university. I mean, you did go to a third-tier university, right? How could I possibly take orders from someone dumber than me? You little. I clenched my teeth and stood up. A university's rank doesn't determine a person's worth. Oh, really? Is that so? Mitchell sneered. But in this bank, your academic background is everything. A third-tier university graduate in a managerial position? You're nothing more than a figurehead.
Mitchell looked down on me, but when we later visited a major client for negotiations, he would soon regret every word he had said thanks to a single comment from the company president's daughter.
Oh my, you don't know who Ryan really is? He's in a whole different league than you. His future is guaranteed. What? No way. You're joking, right?
Learning the truth about me, Mitchell collapsed to his knees.
My name is Ryan.
Since graduating, I have worked as a loan officer at Imperial Bank, dealing with various clients and companies. Over the years, I've been transferred between the headquarters, regional banks, and affiliate organizations, sometimes getting caught up in politics and power struggles.
But no matter the situation,
I've always taken pride in my work and carried out my responsibilities with confidence. Above all, I feel a deep sense of purpose in providing loans to small and mid-sized businesses. Large corporations always have other financing options.
But for small businesses, a bank loan can be their lifeline.
The weight of that responsibility is heavy, but the sense of fulfillment it brings is even greater. I still vividly remember a loan case I handled 5 years ago. It was for a small factory that had been a source of local pride for 50 years. But when a major manufacturer moved production overseas, their orders plummeted, and they faced a financial crisis. Judging by the financial statements alone, approving a loan was nearly impossible. But I personally visited the factory, met with the CEO, Mr. York, and spoke with the employees. What I saw there was unwavering passion and undeniable craftsmanship. With tears in his eyes, Mr. York told me, I have to protect this technology and the livelihoods of my employees, no matter what. I saw something beyond just numbers. I convinced my superiors to approve the loan. For the next 2 years, I worked side by side with the factory, helping them turn things around.
I assisted in finding new clients and advised them on cost-cutting measures.
As a result, the factory made a full recovery. Today, it has grown into a key local business, providing jobs for young workers. When I revisited the factory recently, Mr. York greeted me with a beaming smile.
If it weren't for that loan, we wouldn't be here today, he said. Hearing those words filled me with pride. This is what makes my job so rewarding. It's not just about approving loans.
It's about seeing the businesses grow afterward.
That, I believe, is the true work of a banker. Recently, I had been traveling around various branch offices in regional cities.
But now, after 3 years, I was returning to the headquarters, the main branch. As I stepped into the headquarters once again as the head of the loan department, I had no idea that I was about to encounter an unbelievable situation and an unexpected reunion. First day on the job. The atmosphere at the headquarters had changed completely. Nearly half the employees were people I didn't recognize. After a few brief greetings, I headed straight for the loan department sign, walking briskly toward my old workplace.
Good morning, everyone. Even though I greeted them with enthusiasm, no one so much as glanced up from their computers. Does no one here even know how to say hello? Feeling slightly exasperated, I placed my bag at the desk. Good morning. A tall, young man, probably in his early 20s, approached me. Good morning, or rather, nice to meet you. I'm Ryan, and I'll be working with you all starting today. I'm Mitchell. While the other employees neither responded nor even bothered to stand up, he was the only one who proactively spoke to me. Mitchell, looking forward to working with you. By the way, Ryan. Before he could finish his sentence, he asked me something unexpected. I heard you're a college graduate. Did you go to a private university or a national one? I went to a private university in the countryside. Why? Does that matter? I answered casually, but Mitchell frowned and scoffed. Oh, so you're acting all high and mighty, but you actually went to some third-tier university? That's just embarrassing. What do you mean by that? Believe it or not, I graduated at the top of my class from a prestigious national university. Oh, that's impressive. Ha! That's all you have to say? Wow, what a letdown. Mitchell looked at me as if I were some kind of foreign object. The name of the university you attended isn't that important. Oh, please, that's just idealistic nonsense. He practically spat out the words. At that moment, I heard muffled laughter from other desks. Looking over, I saw a few young employees, likely around Mitchell's age, whispering to each other while glancing in my direction. Is this what all the young guys are like nowadays? From that point on, Mitchell began treating me with blatant disrespect, almost as if I were just a junior from his college days. Mitchell, about this document, I need more concrete justification here. I tapped my index finger on the financial figures. Also, does this actually reflect the client's requests? You did talk to them properly, right? Of course I did. His curt response gave me a bad feeling. But this doesn't make any sense. No one reading this would understand what you're trying to say. You need to make it clearer. Ha! If they actually try to understand, they'll get it. But this is a crucial document for loan approval. For the client, it could literally determine their fate. Yeah, but coming from you, that's not convincing at all. Mitchell scratched his head and pursed his lips in annoyance. My patience was wearing thin. I mean, you're just some third-tier university graduate. Why should I listen to anything you say? Mitchell, this is where you and I are different. Right here. He pointed to his temple with his index finger. Ha! This is going to be a long road ahead. I let out a deep sigh. And my bad feeling turned out to be right. One day, Mitchell and I visited a company we were in charge of together. This was an important client, one that had remained loyal to our bank ever since I first handled their loan. On the way to the company, Mitchell and I had this exchange. Ryan, I don't need you butting in. Well, you are the main contact, after all. Just make sure you don't say anything disrespectful. Don't worry. I'm known as the elite banker of this headquarters. Still as overconfident as ever, Mitchell puffed out his chest. We would like to present this proposal to you today. With that, Mitchell confidently handed over the proposal document, the one I had painstakingly revised, to Justin, one of the company's key employees. Justin's expression darkened immediately, shifting from confusion to outright displeasure. Mitchell, I'm sorry, but I'm having trouble understanding this document. Ha? You don't understand? That can't be right. I just don't see why we need to sign up for this particular service. Well, that's because we're highly confident in what we're offering. It's only natural. Mitchell spoke as if his reasoning was beyond question. I could feel the tension rising in the room, beads of cold sweat forming on my forehead as I watched the conversation unfold. There's no way anyone would agree to this with such a vague explanation. Finally, Justin could no longer hold back. He turned to me. "Ryan, I'd like to hear directly from you."
I was about to respond when Mitchell abruptly cut in.
"Oh, come on. What are you saying? I'm one of the most promising bankers in this institution. Why would you overlook me? You are simply not worth talking to."
That's only because you're refusing to properly understand our proposal.
What? At Mitchell's outrageous remark, I could see a vein pop on Justin's temple.
Look, with revenue at this level, branching into other businesses is completely reckless.
What the hell did you just say? That was like throwing gasoline on a fire. You know what? Forget it. We'll take our business to another bank. As expected, Justin, now fuming, was ready to kick us out. And just when I thought things couldn't get worse, Mitchell made an unforgivable remark. "Well, good luck with that. No other bank is going to waste their time on a small company like yours." With that, he stormed out, stomping his feet as he left. I went pale. Bowing deeply, I desperately tried to apologize. "I sincerely apologize. This is entirely my failure in supervision." Of course, Justin had every right to be furious. I've never met such an arrogant banker before. "What the hell is going on with the training in your department?"
I listened to every word, not missing a single point, and continued bowing my head in apology. Eventually, after cooling down a little, Justin spoke again. "Ryan, you helped us out in the past. Out of respect for you, we'll proceed with this loan through Imperial Bank.
But from now on,
I don't want Mitchell anywhere near our account.
If he's involved, we're done with your bank." I couldn't even lift my head.
From that day on, every time Mitchell visited a client, he somehow managed to rub them the wrong way.
What a troublesome subordinate I've ended up with.
I started feeling a real sense of danger. Mitchell's attitude could damage the bank's reputation.
But I also knew that simple scolding wouldn't work. My past experiences had taught me that
if I didn't change Mitchell's entire mindset, this situation wouldn't improve. One day, after returning from another disastrous client meeting, I stopped him.
"Mitchell, do you have a minute? Another lecture? What do you really think about the job of a loan officer? What do you mean by that? Do you enjoy your job?"
At that moment, it was as if Mitchell had been waiting for an opportunity to vent.
He immediately started complaining about his current position. "The companies I'm assigned to are just too low level.
It's frustrating how these people fail to recognize my worth. Just so you know, there's no such thing as superior or inferior companies."
Oh great, here comes another lecture.
Clearly fed up, Mitchell had already categorized me as beneath him, making it impossible to get through to him.
I should be assigned to companies that match my level. You're just terrible at delegating work. I see.
Looking him straight in the eye, I decided it was time to put my plan into action.
"All right then, let's assign you to a company that matches your level." "Ha!" Caught off guard, Mitchell blinked in confusion. But as soon as he saw the company name on the documents I handed him,
his expression completely changed.
"Wait. Everett Trading? You mean that major construction company? That's huge. Yeah, I figured they'd be the perfect match for you. But if it's too much for you, I won't force it. No, I'll take it. This is exactly what I've been waiting for." He cheered, waving the documents in excitement. "Looks like you finally understand what I was saying. Ryan, you're not so bad after all." "I'm glad you think so." A week later, the big day arrived for Mitchell. "Man, I hear the female employees at Everett Trading are really attractive."
Mitchell muttered smugly as he scrolled through his phone.
Did he even read the materials properly?
Thinking back over the past week, I watched his overconfidence with increasing concern.
"Let's see how this goes. Hello, I'm Caitlin. We've been expecting you." I'm Mitchell from Imperial Bank. Now that I'm here, everything's going to be just fine.
I felt a chill run down my spine at his words, but Caitlin's expression didn't change as she quietly took her seat.
Her name was Caitlin Everett.
She was not only the daughter of Everett Trading's president but also a highly respected and accomplished executive in her own right, a true corporate powerhouse.
After brief introductions and small talk, she began reviewing the loan proposal documents with a serious expression.
As expected, her face soon darkened.
"What is this?"
Caitlin furrowed her brows and looked directly at Mitchell.
"What do you mean?" "It's a loan proposal." "I know that."
"What I want to know is the reasoning behind each figure and projection listed here."
"Could you explain them in detail?"
Mitchell frantically rummaged through his bag, desperately searching for any supporting documents.
Sighing, I handed over a supplementary report I had prepared separately. This document provides detailed figures along with the supporting data. I hope this will be helpful. Thank you.
I could feel Mitchell shooting me a glare, making sure Caitlin wouldn't see.
"Mitchell, does this proposal include the company-wide targets we discussed last time?" Company-wide targets?" "Well, yeah, I think so."
I mean, Everett Trading's revenue is always stable in this sector.
After all, it's a household name, a major corporation.
Mitchell grinned smugly, but Caitlin remained stone-faced.
Being a major corporation doesn't mean we can afford to be complacent. The economic landscape is shifting. If we don't stay ahead, we'll be overtaken. I wonder if someone as young as you can grasp that. Of course. I even trade stocks, so I completely understand the economy."
Mitchell put on an exaggeratedly proud expression, clearly trying to impress her.
But Caitlin wasn't buying it. "In that case, why did you inflate this number?"
Even without factoring in interest, it should be a much lower figure.
Well. It's really dry in here. Ryan, you're free right now, aren't you? Go make me some tea."
Mitchell spoke as if it were the most natural thing in the world, giving me an order.
"What are you saying?" "Oh, come on, you're just a third-tier banker. Doing something like this should be no big deal for you."
The casual way he said it made cold sweat run down my back. The entire conference room was filled with an unspoken, "this has to be a joke" kind of tension.
Then, as if she'd finally run out of patience, Caitlin started calling out Mitchell's behavior.
"Mitchell, watching you, I must say you have quite the attitude."
Ha ha.
Even after being called out so directly, Mitchell still had the nerve to laugh it off.
I couldn't believe his lack of awareness. Caitlin sighed before continuing. "I'll be blunt. Watching you makes me uncomfortable." "What?"
"We're here because we're carrying the weight of our company."
"You might think this is just about borrowing money. But do you have any idea how much effort goes into getting to this stage? Moving billions of yen isn't a simple transaction, it's a responsibility. I mean."
Hit with a direct dose of reality, Mitchell had no comeback.
"And yet, you can't even explain your own proposal. And what was that just now? How dare you ask your boss to buy me a drink?" "Well,
Let me warn you, getting cocky just because you graduated from a prestigious university is going to come back to haunt you."
Then, Caitlin dropped an unexpected bombshell. "But you might not be able to act so high and mighty for much longer." "What do you mean by that?"
"You probably have no idea, given your attitude, but
Caitlin, that's enough. Sorry, but I have to say this. What are you two mumbling about?"
Mitchell glanced between us, looking increasingly irritated. Then, in a voice loud enough for everyone to hear, Caitlin declared, "He's Imperial Bank's top corporate restructuring expert, the one they call the company reviver."
"The company reviver? Wait, you're kidding."
Mitchell's eyes widened so much they looked like they were about to pop out.
He stared at me, scanning my entire body as if trying to figure out if this was some kind of elaborate prank. No way. That can't be right. I heard that people who get transferred to the headquarters loan department are all problematic cases. My seniors told me that only the troublemakers end up here. Ryan is nothing like the other bankers. Caitlin's firm tone even made me flinch a little. You don't even know the first thing about your own boss. What exactly have you been paying attention to? Then, as if telling a story about herself, Caitlin began explaining something I had rarely spoken about. People think Imperial Bank only deals with high-profile companies. But that's not true. Especially not for Ryan. He has a unique talent. He can see the potential in companies on the brink of collapse and provide the right financial support to turn things around. Many businesses and entrepreneurs owe their survival to him. That's why, within the bank, he's earned the title of Company Reviver. I've heard of the Company Reviver before. But him? No way. Mitchell shot me a skeptical look. Then why would someone like him be transferred all over the place? If he was so important, he should be in line for president. It was the head office that requested him. Scratching my head, I finally spoke up. It was during a time of intense internal politics. Honestly, it worked out well for me. I was able to escape the power struggles at the main branch. But more than that, I wanted to help people through my work in loan management. In fact, his achievements have been recognized so much that he's even been considered a candidate for the next bank president. You didn't know that, did you? The next bank president? The unexpected revelation left Mitchell completely stunned, forgetting all about his work. But instead of accepting it, he pointed at me in frustration and blurted out something outrageous. No. That's a lie. Caitlin, you must be brainwashed or something. Mitchell. Watch your words. You know that's ridiculous. I countered him firmly. Sorry, I need to excuse myself. I'm feeling a little unwell. He said that, unable to hide his agitation, and stumbled against the conference room door as he hurriedly left. For a moment, both Caitlin and I just stared in the direction Mitchell had fled, stunned. Then, we snapped back to reality. I'm sorry it turned into such a mess. No, I feel great. I finally got to say what I wanted to say. Caitlin flashed a bright smile, one that seemed almost too cheerful considering she had just finished scolding Mitchell. I put you in a tough spot, Caitlin. Not at all. But I have to say, Ryan, your plan caught me off guard. I returned the compliment. Your sharp work never fails to impress me. Just watching you in action makes me straighten my back a little. Oh, please. Don't tell me you were thinking I was some scary office tyrant. But thanks to you playing the role of the strict senior, I think Mitchell might actually start to rethink his attitude. Maybe, but people don't change that easily. Her firm words reminded me of the countless times we had butted heads in the past. Back when I was still just a loan officer. I had been assigned as the primary contact for major corporate loans. On the other side, handling negotiations for her company, was Caitlin, who had just been promoted to a managerial role at the time. We were the same age, which made our discussions go relatively smoothly. However, because we were both serious about it, sparks flew whenever we faced each other. There were even times when the tension got so bad that it felt like we might end up taking each other down. Having weathered those intense encounters together, I had come to regard Caitlin differently from others I had worked with, almost as if we shared an unspoken bond. Looking back, hearing about the loan proposal for Everett Trading after so long and assigning it to Mitchell was nothing more than a sign of what was to come. Originally, another employee was supposed to handle it, but I explained the reason to Caitlin and had her take over instead, hoping it would be an opportunity for Mitchell to change his extremely poor attitude.
With her strong sense of justice and impeccable work ethic, I believed she would be able to reason with him.
That was just my own wishful thinking.
I haven't dealt with the loan department in a while, so it was actually kind of exciting, she said with a smirk.
But do you really think that Mitchell is going to reflect on this?
Well, after taking that much of a beating, something must have gotten through to him. You sure have your hands full, Ryan. She offered me a sympathetic smile.
Then, out of curiosity, I asked, "Why did you agree to take on this meeting anyway? Was it just because I pushed you into it?"
Well, she let out a small cough, as if trying to cover up something, then continued.
"Because we're comrades. We went through a hell of a time back then, and you helped me overcome it. How could I say no to you?"
Hearing you say that makes me feel like all my work as a banker is truly worth it. I didn't notice even for a second that she was shaken inside. Instead, I was just really happy to know she felt the same way as I did.
"Hey, do you have plans tonight?" Caught off guard by the sudden question, I shook my head. "Then let's grab a drink." "Sure, I don't mind. It's been a while since we caught up. One night won't hurt."
Over the years, we had both grown older. There was plenty to talk about, and I figured nothing about this would be detrimental to work.
Or so I thought. "You haven't changed a bit."
Caitlin and I sat at the counter of a quiet bar tucked away in an alley off the main street.
The atmosphere was relaxed, with a soft jazz saxophone playing in the background.
The bartender was silent and efficient,
letting the music and the clinking of glasses do the talking. "And neither have you."
Unlike her daytime demeanor, Caitlin now had a liberated, carefree expression as she laughed.
"Honestly, I'm always impressed by your work. No wonder you're being considered for the next bank president."
Hey, don't say that so casually.
"And especially not in front of Mitchell."
"Oh, but I heard it firsthand today. I happened to be with one of our executives when Mr. Fletcher came up for a chat.
And guess what he said?"
Mr. Fletcher is always going on about his grand ideals, so you should only take his words at half value." With that, I found myself speaking more freely than I intended, ranting about the nonsensical faction politics within the bank and all the frustrations that had been piling up.
"That kind of thing happens everywhere, huh?"
Caitlin swirled her glass, her tone resigned but unsurprised. "Hey," she said, shifting to a different topic.
"You know, because I'm the CEO's daughter, people always tend to view me with a bit of favoritism.
That's why I pushed myself so hard to rebel against that assumption.
Before I knew it, I'd become this unapproachable figure. Yeah, I always got the sense that you were pushing yourself harder than anyone else." "Exactly. But if I didn't, no one would take me seriously."
People assume a company president's daughter must have been spoiled her whole life. So I had to work twice as hard to prove them wrong. Because she viewed her own position objectively, she must have faced many hardships. I stole a quick glance at Caitlin as she spoke with a distant look on her face. Normally, she was the embodiment of a high-powered career woman, always dressed impeccably in a sharp black suit.
But now, relaxed from the drinks.
She had draped her jacket over the chair beside her. Her bare arms peeked out from her sleeveless blouse. Even through her clothes, her figure was noticeable, and it felt as if a hidden side of her femininity had been revealed to me.
For some reason, I couldn't help but feel a bit restless. "What is it?"
She must have sensed my gaze because she turned toward me.
"Nothing, really."
I quickly averted my eyes, only to find them drawn to her long, slender legs beneath her skirt.
Damn. I've never looked at anyone in the same industry this way before.
I wasn't sure if it was the alcohol or the atmosphere, but I could feel my heartbeat quicken.
Unaware of my inner turmoil, Caitlin continued speaking. "I've always thought this." "Thought what?"
"That you, Ryan, don't just look at our company as a client.
You take us seriously, not just as a banker, but as a person." "Over the years,
we've had loan offers from so many banks, but Imperial Bank was the only one that handled things with true sincerity.
That's a huge compliment. I appreciate it.
I responded with deliberate modesty, making her chuckle. When I first met you, I thought you were a stiff, uptight guy, so difficult to deal with.
You always had that furrowed brow.
And I couldn't tell if you were angry or if that was just your resting face.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. Behind my back, mostly.
I figured.
We both laughed. I had my own blind spots too.
I didn't want to be underestimated, so I tried to do everything on my own.
But I'll never forget what you told me back then. What did I say?
Even if you manage to handle everything alone, it's nothing more than self-satisfaction.
In the end, you'll just be holding everyone back.
She said it all in one breath, leaning on her elbow, lost in nostalgia.
Looking back, I was incredibly arrogant.
My pride got the best of me, and I reacted emotionally at the time.
But now, I understand. I'm grateful you knocked me down a peg when I needed it. We really clashed back in the day, huh?
Thinking about all our past arguments, I downed the last of my whiskey. That's why this time, I wanted to return the favor.
Well, I appreciate it.
I'll be sure to.
Ryan.
Just as I was about to continue, Caitlin cut me off as if she had something to say.
Ryan, you're different from everyone else. You actually see me for who I am, and that makes me really happy. That's why I'm glad I got to see you again today.
There was something in her eyes, something almost intoxicating.
I'm really glad we got to work together again,
I said, keeping my tone professional. But somehow, my composed response only seemed to ignite something in her.
This world is so unfair.
Why do you say that? She hesitated for a moment before, with a teasing lilt, she said something completely unexpected. It's hard to believe that someone as capable and genuinely good as you is still single.
Well, Hey, Ryan.
As she said that, Caitlin leaned in closer. The faint scent of her shampoo lingered in the air, teasing what little restraint I had left.
Ryan, do you have a girlfriend right now?
No, I've been too buried in work.
Haven't had time for anything like that.
I forced a chuckle, but inside, my heart was pounding so hard it felt like it might leap out of my chest. I tried to steady myself, to regain control of the moment.
Caitlin, I think you've had a little too much to drink. We should probably call it a night.
Just as I was about to say before it affects tomorrow, she cut me off.
Do you not like me?
Her voice, low, sultry. Completely different from the commanding tone she had used to shut down Mitchell earlier that day, made me instinctively lean back. I leaned back slightly, but I was already getting caught up in Caitlin's pace.
It's not that. Then maybe I should be your girlfriend.
As if to reinforce her seemingly serious words, she rested her head on my shoulder. I had never been this close to a woman other than her before. Caught up in the moody atmosphere, I found myself instinctively wrapping my arm around Caitlin's shoulder.
I think I drank too much.
As I tried to convince myself this is just for tonight, another part of me whispered, this could be a disaster. Meanwhile, back at the loan department, the lights were still on. Mitchell sat in front of his computer, wearing an expression I had never seen on him before, serious, focused, almost desperate. His fingers flew across the keyboard, his muttering barely audible.
I can do this. No one's watching right now. This is my chance. Muttering to himself, he kept typing away at the keyboard with single-minded focus. No one had the slightest idea that this would turn into an incident that would shake the entire bank. Good morning. Good morning, Ryan. My subordinates all greeted me at once.
As usual, I opened my laptop and began sifting through the overwhelming number of emails. But my mind kept recalling a side of Caitlin I had never known before, and each time, I tried to push it out of my thoughts.
I'm out of mind.
I needed to focus on work, yet not a single client email was sinking in. Since that night, Caitlin and I had subconsciously been avoiding personal interactions.
As I listened to my subordinate's concerns, my mind kept drifting toward Caitlin. Do I actually have feelings for her? But I knew one thing for certain: she was a client. If things escalated, it would inevitably affect work. And that was something I absolutely had to avoid. It was just a momentary lapse. Stop overthinking it. I forced myself to refocus, reaching for the approval documents in front of me. Mitchell, on the other hand, had been surprisingly quiet since Caitlin had called him out. He no longer made snide remarks toward me, nor did he act condescendingly toward his colleagues. Had he actually turned over a new leaf? Excuse me, could you review this document? Mitchell suddenly appeared beside me, handing over a loan proposal for a construction company he had been working with. Oh. Yeah, sure. Thanks. Still lost in my thoughts, I reacted more awkwardly than usual. What do you think, Ryan? This is my big moment. Mitchell puffed out his chest with pride. A huge deal like this doesn't come around often, right? This proves that I can secure major loan deals. And see? I didn't have to waste time reading people's faces like you always talk about. Numbers are what matter, and as long as they add up, deals get done. The surrounding employees gathered around, intrigued. Whoa, Mitchell, that's impressive. Yeah, how'd you manage to land such a big deal? Mitchell smirked with confidence. It's just a fresh, young perspective. You wouldn't be able to land a deal like this with old-school thinking. At first, even I was impressed. Securing a loan of this scale was rare. For a junior employee to achieve something like this was nothing short of remarkable. Hey, everyone, get back to work, I said as I immediately started looking through the documents. Then, something caught my eye. The monthly sales figures for this company weren't that high last time I checked. Mitchell, what's going on here? Isn't this amount a bit too large for a company of this size? Of course not. This is the amount they're expecting to earn. Mitchell replied with full confidence. Ryan, just look at the numbers. The figures don't lie. You don't need to read people's expressions when the data speaks for itself. Something about that statement felt off. The numbers were impressive, sure. But, wait a minute. Wasn't this construction firm a subcontractor for Everett Trading? Could Caitlin know something about this? Show me their past financial records. If they've been receiving orders at this scale before, then it should be documented. Let's confirm it. Hand it over. I reached for the file, but Mitchell quickly pulled back. His expression twitched before he stammered out a response. Well. Oh. That's right. You know, her, the CEO's daughter from Everett Trading. You mean Caitlin? Yes. Yes, exactly. Mitchell nodded frantically, repeating her name as if trying to divert my attention. Are you saying Caitlin is involved in this? Yes, she insisted that this loan had to go through, no matter what. What do you mean by that? Hello, this is Ryan from Imperial Bank. Caitlin? Oh, Ryan? What's up? There's something I need to confirm with you. I quickly summarized the situation. Silence. Then, I heard her inhale sharply. Do you know anything about this? If you have the data for that proposal, send it to me as soon as possible. With the receiver in one hand, I operated my computer and did as I was told. Well, what is this? I've never heard of this deal. I think there must be some kind of mistake. But Mitchell claimed you were behind it. Are you sure you have no idea what this is about? Absolutely. If I had seen this, I would have investigated it immediately. Something about this feels off. We hung up, both of us still unsettled. Based on everything I knew about Caitlin's work ethic, it was unlikely that something like this would slip past her. I turned back to Mitchell. At first glance, he looked composed,
but his eyes kept flicking between his monitor and the floor. He was avoiding eye contact.
He's hiding something. Mitchell. What? He answered curtly, still staring at his screen, refusing to meet my gaze. I just confirmed with Caitlin. She knows nothing about this deal. Ah. Care to explain what's really going on? That is.
After going back and forth between my questioning and Mitchell's silence, he finally gave in and told the truth.
I really needed this loan to be approved no matter what. So, I fudged the numbers. You mean you put false information on the documents? Mitchell nodded begrudgingly, sulking.
Without thinking, I slammed my desk and stood up, glaring at him sharply.
Mitchell! Do you have any idea what you've done?
But if I hadn't done this, the construction company would have gone bankrupt. What you did is an act that could destroy Imperial Bank's credibility.
Why would you do something like this? Because I was completely humiliated in that last meeting. This is payback. I just wanted to prove that I could do something too. Mitchell. I was so dumbfounded that I instinctively looked down. Bringing personal grudges into work? That's even worse. Oh, come on, Ryan. Like you don't let personal matters affect your decisions? What are you talking about?
Mitchell, as if he had just won a battle, started speaking rapidly.
I know all about it. That woman, Caitlin, she's the daughter of the CEO of Everett Trading, isn't she? And rumor has it that you two are pretty close. The entire loan department's talking about it.
Yes, she is the CEO's daughter, but to me, she's an important client. Making baseless accusations based on rumors is disrespectful to her.
You're always defending her. Either way, the loan is off the table. You can't be serious. Mitchell's face went pale. For now, we're going to the construction company to explain and apologize. Let's go.
I forcefully shoved the reluctant Mitchell into the car and kept running through the necessary steps I had to take next in my head. The air inside the car was heavy with silence, and Mitchell kept his head down the entire time. After about 30 minutes of tense driving, the sign of the construction company finally came into view. The old, two-story office building stood out awkwardly among the newer buildings surrounding it. We're here. Mitchell flinched at my words. I pulled the car to the side of the road, and we both headed toward the office. As soon as I opened the door, the faint scent of wood drifted in the air. Excuse me. As I called out, I heard hurried footsteps approaching from the back. Yes? Who might you be? A mild-mannered man with streaks of gray in his hair appeared. This must be Mr. Anderson, the president of the construction company. I'm Ryan from Imperial Bank. I'm here regarding your recent loan application. Ah, come in, come in. Sorry, things are a bit chaotic, we're right in the middle of a big delivery. Even as he said that, Mr. Anderson still took the time to serve us tea politely. The office was cluttered with scattered documents and estimates, a clear sign of how busy they were. But even so, the scale of the company didn't seem to warrant such a massive loan. Today happens to be our day off, so I'm the only one in the office, Mr. Anderson explained. I glanced at Mitchell out of the corner of my eye. He was visibly uneasy, his gaze darting around. Since this was my first time meeting Mr. Anderson, I formally handed him my business card before getting straight to the point. Given the circumstances, we won't be able to approve the loan. I bowed deeply. But Mr. Anderson remained silent, his lips pressed into a firm line, making it impossible to read his emotions. Seeing this, Mitchell muttered under his breath. Why the hell is it being rejected? His frustration was clear, but I reprimanded him more firmly than before. The one who has every right to be upset is Mr. Anderson. Mitchell, you. Ryan, it's fine now. Mr. Anderson spoke in a voice that sounded like he had given up on everything. What are you saying, Uncle? Mitchell looked like he was about to burst into tears. It's fine, Mitchell.
This place was always going to end with my generation. But I haven't even repaid you for everything you've done for me yet. Watching you work hard as a banker is repayment enough." Mr. Anderson looked at Mitchell with deep affection. I still didn't fully understand the situation, but then he turned to me. "You must be Mitchell's boss." I should have introduced myself sooner. I'm one of his relatives. He took off his hat and bowed deeply. Mitchell's father and I were second cousins. We used to play together all the time. His parents were both incredibly smart, and they doted on him with so much love. They were such a close, happy family, or at least, I thought they were. Mr. Anderson paused, wiping the corners of his eyes with a handkerchief. Next to me, Mitchell pursed his lips tightly, silently listening. It was before he even started elementary school. A tragic accident, if you can call it that. Both his parents were caught in it, and that was it. He had no siblings, no one else. Mitchell was left all alone. I hated the world for being so cruel. Mr. Anderson explained that he had taken Mitchell in, raising him as his own, never treating him any differently from his own children. Mitchell was always bright. I never had much education, I only made it through middle school, and it was tough. That's why I wanted him to have the best schooling. I worked as hard as I could so my kids could go to good schools. Thankfully, my sons grew up to be independent, and Mitchell, well, as you can see, he became a fine banker. It's all thanks to you, Uncle. Mitchell's voice was softer than I had ever heard it. I nearly dropped the teacup I was holding. I've always wanted to repay you. So when I heard that your company's loan was assigned to me, I was over the moon. You put me through college even when the business was struggling, and you took care of me all these years. I wanted to give something back. That's why Hearing this unexpected side of Mitchell, I couldn't help but listen intently. I became a banker because I saw how much hardship money could bring. When I was little, I saw my aunt, exhausted in her worn-out work clothes, talking desperately to some man from the bank. And that guy was awful. He acted so high and mighty. I thought to myself, I'll never be a banker like that. I'll become someone better than him. That was my only goal. A complicated mix of emotions swirled inside me. At the same time, a different feeling, one I hadn't had before, began to take root. This company has always been respected in the community. They have skilled craftsmen, and their handmade furniture and baby toys are in high demand. They're constantly receiving orders. That's enough, Mitchell. Thank you. Mr. Anderson, his eyes brimming with tears, gently placed a hand on Mitchell's shoulder. I let out a small sigh, blinking rapidly. What am I supposed to do in this situation? This isn't right. Mitchell suddenly erupted. Why is the world so unfair? Big corporations get money thrown at them no matter what kind of shady things they do. But small businesses, no matter how honest they are, always get the short end of the stick. The frustration he had been holding in burst out all at once. Even if a big company comes up with some sketchy business plan, they still get approved for loans. But companies like this, companies that work hard, companies that do everything right, always have to struggle. Mitchell's voice was trembling. It was a mix of anger and deep sorrow. Ryan, you know this is true. Do you remember that major IT companies loan? There were suspicions of accounting fraud. But the loan still went through, didn't it? Meanwhile, for a company like this, every little thing gets scrutinized down to the last detail before a decision is made. I held my breath. He was right. Big companies sometimes got their loans approved with alarmingly lax screening. Mitchell let out a deep sigh and continued. At first, I was just angry. It pissed me off how reckless corporate plans got funded so easily while hard-working small businesses were ignored. The unfairness of it all made my blood boil. He paused for a moment,
glancing at me with guilt in his eyes. So I started making things harder for loan applicants on purpose. I forced stricter conditions on them, pushed them to revise their plans again and again. If it's all just a numbers game, I figured I'd play it to the extreme. But all I did was piss people off. Regret was written all over his face. But after spending time with people like my uncle, I realized something. My way of doing things wasn't helping the people who really needed it. I was just hurting them instead. His hands clenched into fists. So this time, I wanted to help. Even if I had to manipulate the numbers, I wanted to help the honest, hardworking small businesses that were being left behind. I wanted to get the money flowing to the people who actually needed it. Determination and remorse flickered in his eyes. Look at this construction company. They've worked so hard for so long, yet they can't even get a simple loan for equipment upgrades. How is that fair? I couldn't say a word. Indeed, I had felt the unfairness of the system. But had he gone so far as to commit an illegal act in an attempt to correct it? But that doesn't make it right. I looked Mitchell straight in the eyes. Mitchell, hearing your thoughts today has given me a lot to think about. I understand that you wanted to help your uncle. But what you did just now is something a banker should never do. Now, do you understand what you need to do? Mitchell said nothing, just kept his head down. As I looked around the shop, I could see the care and craftsmanship that had gone into everything. From what I had seen in past records, sales were low, but the trend itself wasn't bad. Still, if things continued like this, the company was on a path to inevitable ruin. Walking away now would be far too cruel. I thought for a moment before speaking. Mr. Anderson, there's still something we can do. Huh? Both Mr. Anderson and Mitchell looked at me as if they had just seen a glimmer of hope. I'll find a way to retry this from my end. Give me a little more time. Ryan. Ignoring Mitchell's shocked expression, I bowed deeply. After leaving the construction company, I let out a deep sigh in my car. I pulled out my phone and hesitantly dialed Caitlin's number. Hello, Caitlin? It's Ryan. Ryan. Her voice carried an unmistakable exhaustion. Good timing. Something serious has happened. I pulled over to the side of the road and turned off the engine. What's going on? She paused for a moment before slowly speaking. The situation with the construction company has caused an uproar at my office. I'm being held responsible for it. What? But you didn't. I know. But the executives don't see it that way. She let out a deep sigh before continuing. First, because I'm in charge of subcontractor management. They're saying it's my fault for not properly keeping track of the construction company's situation. But that's such a minor detail. That's not all. Her voice wavered slightly. Ryan, they're questioning our relationship. They suspect that I'm too close to you, that this might be some kind of collusion with the bank. I felt my breath catch. That's ridiculous. We're just. I know. Caitlin spoke gently. But they don't see it that way. She hesitated for a moment before adding in a small voice. And the fact that I'm the CEO's daughter is also being used against me. They're saying I've damaged the company's reputation. I furrowed my brows. I see. I understand the situation. Actually, I've been working on a plan. But I'll need your help. A plan? There was a trace of hope in her voice. Yeah. I'll explain everything soon. For now, just hang in there. We'll find a way through this. After hanging up, I let out another deep sigh. The situation was more complicated than I had expected. I needed to save the construction company, correct Mitchell's mistake, and get Caitlin out of this mess. I had to find a way to fix everything. With renewed determination, I started the engine again. I drove to the bank,
ready to take my next step.
For the next few days, I meticulously analyzed the construction company's past performance and revenue details, searching for its strengths.
What do you think?
The board members were completely silent. Given the circumstances, securing a loan for a company that had already failed once required an extraordinary restructuring plan.
I pored over the financial records repeatedly, refining a detailed business proposal late into the night,
including an analysis of repayment rates if the loan were granted. Eventually, I managed to arrange an emergency general meeting, and now I was standing alone among executives gathered from across the country,
facing a tense moment. Among them were senior executives from Everett Corporation and Caitlin. Thank you all for taking the time to meet today. Now, let me present my proposal. What I proposed was the following: a joint venture between Everett Corporation and the construction company to enter the vacant house renovation market.
In recent years, while new single-family homes continue to be built, vacant houses had become an increasing social issue,
especially in suburban areas. During a previous conversation with Caitlin over drinks,
she had mentioned that Everett Corporation had been expanding into the home renovation business in recent years.
That caught my attention.
Restoring and repurposing existing structures had become a growing trend. By combining Everett Corporation's brand power and financial resources with the construction company's technical expertise, Everett Corporation could further establish itself in the renovation industry, while the construction company would secure a stable workload. I was determined to get this deal approved.
My heart was on fire. What do you think? Moreover, the proposal I have just presented has already been approved internally within Everett Corporation. If we secure this loan, construction can begin immediately. In fact, the project is already underway,
and we have received approvals from several vacant property owners, ensuring smooth loan repayment. The conference room buzzed with murmurs. Then, Mr. Fletcher suddenly stood up.
This is unprecedented. However, we have a long-standing relationship with Everett Corporation.
Given the thorough research and carefully calculated profit margins, I have no reason to oppose this.
I wholeheartedly support this proposal. Following his statement, applause gradually spread through the room.
Thus, the emergency loan for the renovation project was approved, securing a special loan for the construction company.
Additionally,
Caitlin's false accusations were cleared, and trust within the company was restored.
Ryan, that was incredible. I can't believe you managed to get Mr. Fletcher's approval. I've said some pretty harsh things to you, Ryan. I feel ashamed of myself. I'll follow you for life, Ryan. Hearing about the outcome, my subordinates completely changed their attitude, showering me with praise. Thank you. I'm counting on you all from now on.
As I remained calm, I couldn't help but reflect on how fickle people could be.
Yet,
I was genuinely happy that I had finally connected with my team in the loan department.
Wait, where's Mitchell? Oh, him, well. I hurried to the HR department. Excuse me. Mitchell. Ryan.
Mitchell, who was in the middle of processing his resignation, turned to face me.
His expression looked as if he had given up on everything. I'm not qualified to be a banker anymore. I have to take responsibility and resign.
His words made me furrow my brows.
Why do you have to quit?
If I stay, I'll just bring down the standards of the headquarters.
Standards don't matter. What's important is what you want to do with your life. I realized through all of this how arrogant I had been.
For the first time, Mitchell's voice was honest and sincere.
I thought I was special just because I graduated from a prestigious university. I got carried away, hurt people who had helped me. I can't stay after that.
I looked at his hunched shoulders and spoke gently. Every mistake and failure you make while you're young is just a scratch.
This time, you took a hard hit, but in the future, it will become one of your most valuable lessons. Don't you think so, Mitchell? I placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Remember why you became a banker in the first place? It was to help your uncle's construction company, wasn't it? As long as you don't forget that, you can always be a banker who stands by those in need. You can do this, Mitchell. Ryan.
I'm so sorry, Mitchell said, bowing his head repeatedly, tears streaming down his face. I gently patted his back, continuing to comfort him.
You must be busy with all the new orders coming in. Yes, thanks to you. This is all because of you, Ryan.
Under the scorching heat of 95 degrees Fahrenheit, Mr. Anderson spoke with satisfaction, sweat pouring down his face as he worked. At one point, the construction company's survival was in jeopardy. However, after securing the loan, their sales gradually increased. And now they had reached the point where they could hire new employees every year. Not only had they secured a deal with Everett Corporation, but they had also begun working with other major companies. With this level of stability, the loan repayment seemed secure, and I felt a deep sense of relief. Meanwhile, Caitlin's outstanding work, including her efforts in this case, was recognized, and she was officially promoted to executive officer. Although her involvement in field work would decrease, she was determined to set an example for her subordinates and junior employees.
In response to Mitchell's actions, Imperial Bank launched a comprehensive review of its lending system.
To prevent any future misconduct, a new system was being implemented at an accelerated pace.
First, the loan screening process was made more transparent. A multi-layered review system was introduced, ensuring that no single individual could approve a loan on their own.
Additionally, AI-based fraud detection technology was integrated, allowing the system to automatically identify suspicious transaction patterns and irregular loan applications. Furthermore, a new lending program for small businesses was established. This initiative aimed to provide appropriate financial support to small-scale businesses that previously struggled to secure loans. Fortunately, Mitchell's fraudulent loan scheme was discovered before it could be executed, preventing any real damage.
However, he was given a 1-month suspension.
During this period, his salary was cut, and he was barred from promotion reviews for the next 2 years. Mitchell, you almost made a huge mistake.
But you still have a chance to start over.
Take this month to reflect on yourself. At my words, Mitchell bowed his head deeply. During his suspension, he underwent training on financial ethics and compliance, using the time to deeply reflect on his actions. When he returned to the bank a month later, he was a changed man. The arrogance and condescension he once displayed had disappeared, replaced with humility and sincerity.
For this project, I believe we can approve the loan at this interest rate.
To reach the target amount within this time frame. Day after day, he devoted himself to assisting clients in need with genuine dedication. Naturally, people's opinions of him began to change.
That guy, Mitchell, right?
He's incredibly capable for someone so young.
That banker from the other day, he actually listened to our concerns even though we're just a small company.
I thought Imperial Bank would just give us the runaround, but my perception of them has changed.
I look forward to working with you again. Thank you, we appreciate your continued support.
Mitchell responded with a radiant smile.
Ryan, can you check this? Yeah, thanks.
Unlike before, his reports now included detailed analyses of a company's goals, the challenges they faced, and his perspective as a loan officer. Though there was still room for improvement, his natural intelligence and quick learning abilities, honed at a top university, were undeniable.
All right. Mitchell, go ahead with this. Yes. Thank you. Mitchell.
As he busily prepared, I called out to him.
What is it? You've come a long way.
With a slightly shy expression, he looked like a young boy, innocent and eager. Watching him, I felt like a father watching his once troubled child finally grow up.
It was a deeply moving moment. Well then, I'm off.
With the enthusiastic gazes of his colleagues on him, Mitchell dashed forward with renewed confidence. "Ryan, you really did a great job this time."
Everett Corporation expressed their deep gratitude as well.
Mr. Fletcher chuckled, his large frame shaking as he spoke.
"I should be the one thanking you.
Despite the risks, you supported me throughout the approval process, and I'm truly grateful for that."
"Mr. Fletcher." I bowed deeply. No, lift your head.
"I knew I made the right decision in trusting this to you."
Ha! They say that we're now in an era where those with real ability are rewarded.
But in the end, organizations still operate in a rigid hierarchy.
The ones with the best academic credentials always have the advantage. And yet, I couldn't accept that.
Offering you up as a sacrifice weighed on my conscience, but I had to prove that my belief was right.
Mr. Fletcher. So, what do you think? Would you like to take over after me?
His sharp gaze pierced straight through me.
But I had my own convictions.
Mr. Fletcher, you have guided me ever since I was a rookie, and I hold immense respect for you as both a banker and a person.
I am truly honored that you would ask me this. However, go on.
With a gentle smile, like that of a benevolent god, he listened intently.
I love working in the field.
I take pride in sweating alongside my colleagues and helping those in need, whether they're individuals or business owners.
I see. That's exactly what I expected you to say. I'm sorry for not meeting your expectations.
No, this was just my own selfish request.
Don't worry about it.
He slowly stood up and extended his left hand toward me.
Keep doing your best for Imperial Bank.
Yes, sir. As I shook his hand firmly, I was reminded of the hopeful days when I had just joined the bank. With work finally settling down, I decided to take a bold step. I asked Caitlin out to dinner.
The last time we had met outside of work was at that bar. Tonight, she wasn't in her usual business attire but instead appeared in an elegant red dress. She looked more beautiful than ever. I felt my nerves tighten. Caitlin. What is it? About us. Yeah.
She seemed to sense what was coming and lowered her gaze. I could see her unexpectedly long eyelashes fluttering up and down repeatedly. Spending time working with you again made me realize something, just how amazing you are.
No, not just amazing. I realized how important you are to me. And
her large eyes turned to meet mine. At first, I thought of you as a valued colleague, someone I worked alongside. But as time went on, those feelings grew into something much bigger.
In other words,
I wasn't used to saying things like this to a woman.
I hesitated, but then she gently took my hand from the table and held it. I want to hear it from you.
Her words gave me the courage I needed, and I squeezed her hand in return.
I love you. If you'll have me, I want you to stay by my side.
Yes, I'd love to. She let out a soft laugh, and I felt all the tension in my body melt away.
I was really happy, you know.
Ha! When you called me after so long, I got nervous, which isn't like me.
Because, truth is, ever since we used to clash at work, I've always liked you.
Her lips curled slightly as she confessed, and I couldn't hide my surprise.
Really? I had no idea. You're so oblivious. I guess I am.
We both burst into laughter.
People can become insecure about their background or education.
At times, they may even believe they're the rulers of their own little world. I may not have graduated from a top-tier university, but I've grown into a banker who can truly connect with people.
There are so many things in life more important than academic achievements, things I hope to pass on to the next generation.
My name is Keith York, and I'm a 35-year-old man.
Right now, my life is busy every day, but it's fulfilling in its own way. I enjoy my job, and the time I spend with my family is invaluable.
I have a wife and 2 young children, but I never thought I would actually get married. That's because I only finished middle school, and I assumed no woman would ever be interested in me.
Women generally prefer men with higher educational backgrounds than their own.
It's no surprise that people who graduate from prestigious national or highly competitive universities tend to be popular. After all, those who graduate from such universities are usually highly capable. I wanted to go to university too, but I didn't even make it to high school. I actually like studying, but I had no choice but to start working after middle school. I grew up in a single-mother household, and we were extremely poor. Even with child support benefits, it hardly made a difference. We lived on the edge every single day. My mother also only finished middle school, so she had no qualifications, and her job opportunities were very limited. On top of that, she had weak health, so she often couldn't go to work. She worked as a cleaner, but that job is physically demanding, and she would quickly fall ill. Our meals every day consisted of plain white rice, thin miso soup, and pickles bought from a discount grocery store. Occasionally, we had some meat, but it was always just small scraps. I had never even eaten a steak before, so I used to watch steak on TV while eating my plain white rice. But even rice was rationed. We were only allowed one small bowl per day. Even though it was just the two of us, one small bowl a day was nowhere near enough. As a growing boy, I was constantly hungry and would go to a nearby bakery to get free bread crusts. But when Matthew, the class leader, found out about it, he mocked me relentlessly. He said eating something like that made me worse than an animal at the zoo.
You're seriously eating free bread crusts? That's lower than a zoo animal. Even my dog eats better than you. He gets fresh locally sourced beef and high-end dog food. It costs $80 for just 4 pounds, that's more expensive than regular rice. Yeah, that's some fancy dog food. Your dog sure eats well. But seriously, just leave me alone. What I eat has nothing to do with you, right? It actually does. If there's a poor kid in this class, people from other classes will start saying we all have poverty germs. This isn't just your problem, watch your actions, man. Exactly. If people start calling our whole class too poor because of you, that's messed up. I don't want to be labeled like that. Isaac's right. For the sake of Class 2's reputation, stop doing weird stuff. Isaac, who always stuck to Matthew like a shadow, also joined in, throwing mean comments my way. It wasn't like I wanted to eat bread crusts. I did it because I had no other choice. If I had more money, I would eat more of the foods I want. For example, I would have raw fish, sushi, and the steak I've always wanted to try, things I rarely get to eat. And I wanted snacks too. Sometimes, I would stick my hand under vending machines, hoping to find dropped coins. On lucky days, I'd find a $1 coin, which I secretly used to buy cheap snacks. I knew it was wrong, but as a starving kid, I had no other options. Back then, I didn't even know middle schoolers could get part-time jobs, so that was the only way I could keep from going hungry. I also couldn't afford most of the school supplies I needed. Since we had no money, I wore hand-me-down uniforms from neighbors, and even my gym clothes were second-hand. Both the uniform and gym clothes were so worn out that anyone could tell at a glance how shabby they were. We were allowed to use any type of bag for school, but I couldn't afford the standard student bag that everyone else had. Instead, I used a drawstring bag I had made in my elementary school home economics class. Because of that, I was relentlessly mocked, and people started calling me Patchy as a nickname. To be fair, no middle schooler used a handmade drawstring bag from elementary school. It looked childish and, honestly, pretty lame. But I had no other bag to carry my textbooks and supplies. If I had money, I would have bought everything new. Still, I couldn't blame my mother. She raised me all by herself, and no matter how sick she felt, she still went to work. I wanted to grow up quickly so I could help her. To do that, I needed an education and a well-paying job. My mother always told me, education is the key to escaping poverty. I remember hearing a similar story about a comedian. Kyle, a comedian from a poor background,
was a kid who spent more time playing than studying.
Watching his biographical drama, I assumed his family couldn't afford to invest in education.
But his mother was incredibly passionate about learning and constantly pushed Kyle to study. Kyle didn't like studying, but because his mother was so insistent, he eventually started putting in the effort. He also had an older brother who was an excellent student, and maybe he didn't want to lose to him. In the end, Kyle got into a prestigious private university, but once there, he discovered comedy and ended up dropping out. His mother was furious at first, but as Kyle gradually gained fame, she couldn't hide her happiness. However, making a living as a comedian is tough unless you become a big star. Even after appearing on TV, Kyle still had to work part-time jobs. Then one day, he got a call from his older brother with shocking news: his mother had collapsed from a sudden illness. The same mother who had always nagged him to study. The same mother who had kept his pocket money for him. Kyle never really liked his mother, but she was still his parent, so he rushed to the hospital. Lying weak in bed with an IV, his mother took something out of a drawer and handed it to him. It was a bank book under Kyle's name. To his surprise, it showed a balance of over $100,000. His mother had been saving for him, setting aside money from her part-time job and depositing all the pocket money she had kept. With a smile, she told him, "If I had given it to you earlier, you would have spent it all." She knew she didn't have much time left and wanted him to use that money to support himself. Kyle had always thought his mother was strict and cold, but at that moment, he finally realized how deep her love was and broke down in tears. Watching that story, I thought Kyle's mother had a point. Even though Kyle dropped out of university, the university later awarded him an honorary degree. Even though he didn't complete all his coursework, he contributed to the world as both a comedian and a film director. Gaining international recognition. It convinced me that education was necessary to achieve greatness, so despite the struggles, I buried myself in my studies during middle school. But life doesn't always go the way you want. My mother fell ill and started being hospitalized repeatedly. She had no health insurance, so the medical bills were incredibly high. As a middle schooler, I had no idea about financial aid programs like the high-cost medical expense system. I just kept paying the hospital bills from my mother's meager savings. As that continued, I realized I probably wouldn't be able to go to high school. While everyone talked about which high school they wanted to attend, I was left out of the conversation. I wanted to keep studying in high school and eventually go to university. But for someone as poor as me, it was impossible. Around that time, I finally learned that middle schoolers were allowed to do certain types of part-time jobs. So, I started delivering newspapers. I also helped out at a local bakery in exchange for a small tip. Technically, they weren't supposed to hire a middle schooler, but they let me work under the pretense of helping out. Along with my small payment, they also let me take home bread crusts and leftover bread. By then, my mother could no longer prepare my school lunches, so I survived on the bread I brought home. Still, there were different types of bread to savory ones, sweet pastries, so I never really got bored of eating them. I was just grateful to have food, but since I ate bread every single day, I ended up getting a new nickname, Krusty. Yo, still eating bread again? That one looks kinda stale, though. Guess that's what poor folks eat. My family only buys bread from fancy bakeries. You know. We only get freshly baked baguettes and loaves that cost $9 each. But hey, you're rock bottom poor, so I guess you don't have a choice. Ha? For real, Krusty, how do you not get sick of that stuff? You must be seriously lacking nutrients. Is that why you're so scrawny? No muscle at all. Look at me, I've got abs. Bet you never even get to eat real meat. Honestly, that's just sad. Yeah, he probably gets to eat meat, like once a year. And even then, just scraps. I bet he's never had steak in his life. Damn, that's rough. Man, I almost feel bad for you. The truth was, I really had never eaten steak. I hadn't even smelled it before. Even the scraps of meat I had were so rare that I couldn't argue back. I just kept my head down and ate my bread, but my tears made it taste salty. Seeing me cry, Matthew and Isaac took it as an invitation to mock me even more.
Why did they hate me so much? What had I ever done to them?
Then, high school entrance exam season came.
But I didn't take any exams. I had already given up on going to high school.
My homeroom teacher said it was a shame, but I had already accepted it as my fate.
Instead, I found a place that was willing to hire me.
It was the bakery that had been giving me small tips for helping out. They offered me a part-time job, and I was incredibly grateful.
The baker's wife knew about my mother's illness and would sometimes pack leftover homemade side dishes for me to take home.
I felt truly lucky to be working for such kind-hearted people.
While everyone else was in high school, I was working at the bakery every day.
Sometimes, I'd see high school students in their uniforms coming in to buy bread in the morning. Seeing them made me feel a little sad.
If I had money, I would have been wearing a uniform and going to high school too.
But I couldn't burden my mother any further. Now, it was my turn to support her. No matter how painful it felt, I threw myself into my work.
Eventually, I left the bakery and started a different job. It's a busy job, but I enjoy my life now.
And as fate would have it, I ended up marrying a woman who used to be a customer at the bakery. Now, I'm happily living my life with her and our kids.
I really have no complaints. One day, I found a letter in my mailbox. It was an invitation to a middle school reunion.
I wasn't particularly excited about it, but I was curious to see how everyone had turned out.
What had they become?
I was already a 35-year-old dad, so surely everyone else had become middle-aged too.
When I arrived at the reunion venue, a large group of men and women were chatting away.
Among them, one voice stood out loud and clear. It was Matthew. He looked pretty much the same, still youthful.
Maybe he wasn't married yet.
Not that it mattered, but single people do tend to look younger.
Hey, if it isn't Krusty. Long time no see. How's life? Not bad. What about you, Matthew? I'm doing amazing. I'm about to start my own company. I already quit my old job. See? I was never meant to be one of the used. I was born to be the one in charge. But hey, you're still at the bottom, right? Weren't you working at that tiny, rundown bakery?
Man, I could never do that, too embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, he's a middle school graduate.
No skills, no real options.
That was Isaac, still hanging on to Matthew like always.
He hadn't changed at all, still had that same nasty look in his eyes. I was about to ignore them, but then Matthew hit me with another arrogant remark. You know, Krusty, you should really show me some respect.
I just got a $50 million investment from a major company. Bow down, man.
Then, out of nowhere, he splashed his drink all over me.
Laughing obnoxiously, he and his cronies howled in amusement. I was completely soaked.
Yeah, Krusty, you better start showing us some respect.
Oh, and by the way, Matthew's gonna be the CEO, and I'm gonna be the vice president. Without missing a beat, I responded. Oh, yeah?
Well, that deal's off the table now.
Huh? What the hell are you talking about? You lost your mind or something? Did he finally snap?
That's hilarious.
Nah, I'm serious. You guys should start worrying about yourselves instead of laughing. I'm saying you're not getting any investment. Oh, wait. Do I need to spell it out for you? The CEO of that major corporation is me. What?
What the hell did you just say?
Quit messing around. There's no way in hell you're the CEO of Japan Food Corp. Well, actually, I am. Back when I worked at the bakery, I handled sourcing wheat and eggs. People told me I had a good eye for quality. And I started to find real joy in evaluating food ingredients.
So I founded Japan Food Corp, a company dedicated to sourcing the finest ingredients from around the world.
No way. You're seriously the CEO of that company? But we were planning to make money in the food industry too. This is insane. You're just a middle school graduate. Just because someone didn't go to high school doesn't mean they can't do anything. If you work hard, there are always people who recognize your efforts. And if you have a vision, you can carve out your own path, even build your own company. Growing up poor, I had an obsession with food, what I wanted to eat and what people considered truly delicious. But becoming a CEO because of that. I studied food relentlessly, what makes something taste good and what people desire. I bought and tested all kinds of food, researched the market, and developed a deep understanding of flavors. That's how Japan Food Corp grew and became successful. Yes, I had become the CEO of a massive corporation. While working at the bakery, I learned how to judge the quality of ingredients. My childhood hunger and fascination with food fueled my desire to learn more, and that passion eventually led me to establish my own company. By the way, my company generates $8,000 million in annual revenue. So a $50 million investment was pocket change. But I had already decided I wasn't going to invest in these guys. Actually, the whole investment deal wasn't even my decision. It was my executive director, Marcus, who arranged it behind my back. Turns out, Marcus had taken bribes from these guys to push the investment through. Once I found out, I planned to shut the whole thing down. I originally had no interest in attending the reunion, but once I learned about the bribery, I decided to go and settle things. By the way, you guys were expecting an investment from Marcus, right? You bribed him, didn't you? You really thought that was okay? Well, we didn't bribe anyone. It was just a business dinner. Oh yeah? Giving someone $30,000 in cash is just a business dinner now? That's a hell of a thing to say. I wouldn't have the guts to claim that. But hey, don't worry, you're definitely going to be punished for it. I'll make sure of it. When I said I would rat them out to the police, Matthew and Isaac turned even paler. They looked as pale as green apples. Then, they begged me, pleading desperately not to call the police. Please, just don't go to the cops. I don't want my life to be over like this. If this gets out, it'll ruin my future. I have a family. I can't let them suffer because of this. So what? I have a family too. If you really cared about yours, you wouldn't have done something so stupid. I bet your wife would be devastated to hear what you've been up to. I'm engaged. I promised my fiancée a future. Please, don't report this. I'm begging you. That's not happening. Some things are just non-negotiable. You crossed the line, and there's no coming back from it. No. What are we supposed to do? Wait, how about this? We'll get on our knees and apologize. That'll make it right, won't it? Please. Oh, so now you're getting on your knees and apologizing? Yeah, we'll do that right here. Please, just let this go. Well, I don't need that. I didn't need their pathetic display. But they threw themselves to the ground, crying and begging anyway. Even so, I had no intention of letting them off the hook. If bowing could fix everything, you wouldn't be in this mess in the first place. My decision is final, I'm not investing in you. And I will report you to the police. So rest easy. You bastard. We bowed to you. Don't get cocky, you used to be a broke, weak loser. Yeah. Don't you dare look down on us. Just give us the investment already. Oh? Are you threatening me now? Well, that makes things even easier. I guess I have no choice but to take legal action. Looks like I'll be heading to the police station after this. Wait, no. Please, stop. Don't do this. You'll ruin our lives. As if they had any right to say that. They were the ones who had ruined my childhood. I had wanted to make good memories in middle school, but because of those guys, all I got was humiliation and misery. Now that they were the ones suffering, I figured it was just karma for everything they did in the past. Life isn't that easy, you reap what you sow. I turned on my heel and walked out of the reunion venue. Then, I headed straight to the police station. I had no sympathy for them anymore. They deserved whatever punishment was coming their way. At the police station, I reported that Matthew and Isaac had bribed Marcus. I also exposed Marcus for eagerly accepting their bribe. How did I know about the bribery? There was a reason. My company's secretary happened to witness the whole thing. Not only that, but she secretly recorded it and sent the video to me. With solid evidence like that, there was no way those three would escape punishment. The footage went like this. Ah, I really appreciate this. No, the pleasure is ours. We never expected to get a $50 million investment. Well, your company is an essential partner for Japan Food Corp, so this amount is nothing. I'm sure Mr. York will approve it afterward. That would be wonderful. Here, please accept this token of our gratitude. What's this? Wait, is this a stack of cash? Yes, exactly. It looks pretty thick. Just between us, there's about $30,000 in there. Oh my, you guys sure are bad. Handing over a bribe like this. Well, we have to maintain a good relationship. This is just part of the game. Please, take this as a gesture of our appreciation, Marcus the Great. Oh, stop it. Flattering me won't get you anything extra. Ha ha. Ha ha. They were laughing like idiots in the hallway, never realizing they were being watched. I couldn't believe how stupid they were to expose themselves like that. Shortly after, Marcus, Matthew, and Isaac were arrested. Matthew's big business plan crumbled before it even started, leaving him with nothing but debt. They had already invested in machinery and equipment, spending a large amount of money on them. It seems they used specialized machines, each costing anywhere from hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. They had gone on a reckless spending spree, only to be left with nothing but crushing debt. Technically, bribery laws usually apply to public officials, but in some cases, they also apply to certain private individuals. For example, CEOs and executives of companies can still be charged with bribery offenses. In addition, their actions could also be considered breach of trust, which carries serious penalties. Since Matthew was supposed to become a CEO, he was likely to face a harsh sentence. Not that I cared. Whatever happened to them next was none of my business. They could rot in prison for all I cared. And after that, they could struggle under the weight of their debt and suffer through hell. In the end, it was decided that Matthew and the others would go to prison. Matthew's wife, disgusted, took their child and left, filing for divorce. Isaac's fiancée also dumped him. Clearly, neither of them wanted to be associated with a criminal. If I were in their shoes, I'd have done the same thing. Losing their families, Matthew and Isaac finally realized the gravity of their crimes. They desperately pleaded with their lawyers to save them. But it was too late. Their crimes were too severe, and there was nothing that could be done. With this, everything was finally settled. If I had let things continue unchecked, I might have ended up being held responsible, too. People could have accused me of failing to supervise my own executive, which would have put me in serious trouble. From now on, I want to put more effort into employee education to ensure that nothing like this ever happens again. Bribes, whether giving or receiving, bring nothing but trouble. Receiving money without any effort is dangerous. Once someone gets a taste for easy money, they start believing they can make a living off of it. I firmly believe that money should be earned through hard work. I struggled immensely to make money since I only had a middle school education, but looking back, it was a valuable experience. When I started my newspaper delivery job in middle school, waking up early was so hard. I was always exhausted in class, but I forced myself to wake up at 2 or 3 a.m., head to the office, and bike around town delivering newspapers, all for the sake of supporting my mother. At first, helping out at the bakery was also hard because I was carrying heavy things. Especially since the baker's wife was pregnant back then, I carried the heavy items for her so she wouldn't have to. After finishing middle school, I worked part-time at the bakery, watching students in their uniforms head off to school with a sense of frustration. I wanted to go to high school so badly, but we didn't have the money, so I had to give up on that dream. Looking back, maybe things could have worked out if we had applied for welfare assistance. But at the time, I had no knowledge of such things, and no one ever told me about them. So, I simply swallowed my frustration and worked. Still, that experience taught me the true value of money. My wages weren't great, but at least I could see the direct results of my hard work in the form of cash. With my first paycheck from the bakery, I bought my mother strawberries, her favorite fruit. She had always said that fruit was too expensive, but she often reminisced about the taste of strawberries from when she was younger. When I gave them to her, she ate them while tears streamed down her face. She kept thanking me for buying something so luxurious, which made me feel a little embarrassed. I remembered that the strawberries were high-end, costing about $10 per pack. I couldn't afford to take her to a fancy restaurant, so this was the least I could do to make her happy. Now, I'm a CEO and have built wealth, but I probably understand the value of money better than anyone. That's why I can't stand bribery. Buying people's trust with money is inherently wrong. Trust isn't something you purchase, it's something you build. I always think about what I can do to make others happy and act accordingly. Trust is built when my actions produce results and help the other person understand my intentions. Since that incident, my company has improved significantly. I committed to organizational reform and implemented strict training for my employees. At first, many of them resisted the idea of undergoing training. But after actually experiencing it, they started to feel more motivated to contribute to the company and society. I brought in top-class instructors to conduct professional etiquette training. Ideally, this kind of training should have been done when they first joined the company, but I had been too busy to prioritize it. I reflected on my own negligence and resolved to be more mindful moving forward. As my employees started working with more enthusiasm, I felt even more motivated to improve the company. It was a win-win situation. I don't demand absolute loyalty from my employees, nor do I expect them to blindly obey. But at the very least, they need to understand the difference between right and wrong. That's why I insisted they undergo this training. Watching the process was enlightening for me as well, and I plan to continue these programs in the future. I believe that when the leader continues to learn, it positively influences the entire team. Unfortunately, I never got the chance to attend high school or university. My formal education stopped at middle school. But I've come to realize that school education isn't everything. What you learn in school is just the foundation for life. The real lessons come from actual experience in society. This training was a perfect example of that. You don't learn this kind of thing in school, so at first, many employees looked nervous. Even I felt a bit anxious just observing from the back of the room. Watching the strict instructors drill discipline into my employees made me break out in a sweat. But since all of this benefits society, I have to endure it. Even training sessions that seem unreasonable at first are actually full of useful lessons. I decided that from now on, I would actively seek out opportunities to learn and absorb as much knowledge as possible. As the CEO, I needed to keep learning so that my employees would also develop a thirst for knowledge. If they acquired new skills, they could apply them to their work, making the company even stronger. For example, in accounting, having a bookkeeping certification would make tasks much more efficient. But not all employees had it, meaning senior staff had to train the newer ones from scratch. So, I thought about how to fix this. That's when I decided to introduce e-learning as part of our company's employee benefits.
The company would cover all costs, and if an employee earned a qualification, their salary would increase accordingly. Other companies apparently offer only about $100 in certification allowances. But since I want employees to make the most of their skills for the company, I set it at $500.
Since my company was thriving, this was an investment I could afford. As a result, more employees started dedicating themselves to self-improvement.
I even allowed them to study during downtime at work if it contributed to the company's success. Many of them obtained new qualifications and became experts in their fields.
Productivity increased, and the company became even more dynamic. Of course, sales skyrocketed as well, and now my company's revenue exceeds $10 billion.
It took significant investments to get here, but those investments have more than paid off. Spending money on education was never a mistake.
Then, I remembered the story of Kyle, the comedian. Kyle's mother insisted that he pursue academics because she believed that education could help him in life.
She must have repeatedly told him to study for that reason. As a kid, I wanted to escape poverty through education. I thought if I studied hard and got into a prestigious university, I could land a good job.
But what exactly is a good job? What kind of work is considered valuable by society?
In the end, I didn't go to high school and started working at a bakery.
But even that was an important job. After all, we were feeding people.
When I was younger, I believed that getting into a good company meant earning a stable income.
But that's not what life is all about.
Even if you graduate from a top university and land a high-paying job, you could still lose everything.
Just like Matthew did. Following the right path doesn't always guarantee success.
What truly matters is constantly learning, improving, and gaining skills. It took me until this age to realize it, but I wish I had known sooner.
If I had, I wouldn't have spent my youth drowning in feelings of inferiority. But in a way, those feelings fueled my hunger for success. If I had just wallowed in self-pity instead, I wouldn't have accomplished anything. So maybe feeling inferior isn't always a bad thing.
If someone out there is struggling with those emotions, I want them to cherish that feeling. It's painful, and constantly comparing yourself to others isn't healthy. But if you deny your own struggles, you risk denying yourself entirely. It's normal to want to climb higher and gain recognition. So, I want you to think carefully about how to fulfill that desire. And once it's fulfilled, what matters most is how you give back to society. I still have a long way to go, but I have big plans for my next business venture. I'm going to expand the bakery that once helped me into a nationwide chain. Because I want everyone to experience the simple joy of good, affordable bread. I built my career at a multinational corporation after graduating from Harvard, but I decided to change jobs to expand my possibilities.
As a leader driving the industry forward. Sounds tough.
I responded half-heartedly, and she let out a scoff before continuing.
And what about you? Still living that stereotypical bottom-of-the-barrel life?
You worked hard since middle school.
But didn't I tell you that fate can't be changed? Ariana's words were clearly meant to belittle me.
Just then, the office door opened, and a staff who was in charge of today's interview stepped in.
There you are.
The interview is about to start, Mr. Overton.
My name is Eugene Overton. I'm 32 years old.
Every day, I wear work clothes and get covered in dirt.
Let's just say I'm in the construction business.
From morning until night, I work on site, and the vibrations from the machinery have sunk into my arms and back.
It's far from a glamorous life, but I take pride in what I do. Hey, bro, did you hear? The heir to Simon's Holdings is getting married. Oh yeah? That's quite the news. And the bride is someone big. She's the daughter of Kraft International. The moment I heard that name, I instinctively looked up. Kraft? You know her? Nah, just a little. I was born and raised in a rural town.
My father's company, Overton Construction, was a small local business that built homes and handled minor construction projects.
Basically, a small town workshop. My father was quiet and stubborn, my mother was cheerful and hardworking, and it was just the four of us: me, my younger brother Sean, and our parents. We lived a modest but happy life. As I sat at a small desk in the office, Sean spoke up. Ever since I could remember, my father had been a workaholic. He would leave early in the morning and come home late at night. Even on his days off, he was glued to blueprints and invoices. The sparks from welding steel beams and the sound of cutting wood were constants in my childhood memories. Watching my father work, I once dreamed of becoming a craftsman like him. Seeing people happy in the homes and buildings he built made me want to do something just as meaningful. But by the time I entered middle school, that dream had completely faded. I was good at studying. In our small rural school, I stood out, always competing for the top spot in my grade. Whenever I got praised for my grades, teachers and my parents would say, "Eugene, you should aim for a bigger world." But there was one person I just couldn't stand: Ariana Kraft. She was my rival in middle school. Ariana was better than me at everything. Her grades were top-notch, her family was rich, and she was always draped in flashy brand-name clothes. Her father was the CEO of the globally renowned Kraft International, making her a true heiress. She carried herself with unwavering confidence and often spoke as if looking down on others. Maybe I was just jealous of her. "Next time, I'll beat you." Really? But no matter how hard you try, you can't change fate. She said it with a smile, but her words cut deep. I despised the way she talked about fate. In our town, fate had an almost absolute weight to it. People felt trapped in their small town lives. For Ariana, fate meant the privileges she was born with, things she didn't have to work for. My father collapsed when I was in my second year of high school. That morning was like any other. He left early for work, then spent the night hunched over blueprints at the office. I still remember my mother's scream echoing through the house. "Eugene! Something's wrong with Dad." I rushed into the living room to find my father slumped against the couch, groaning in pain. Thankfully, his life wasn't in danger, but he could no longer work the way he used to. He looked straight into my still youthful face and said, "Eugene, I'm leaving the company to you. Please, take care of it." "Dad, come on. I'm nowhere near ready. I'm still just a kid, and I have school. Listen to me. You have the potential to be greater than I ever was. Eugene, take over Overton Construction for me." Something inside me shifted at those words. I had planned to go to college after high school. My teachers and the people around me had high hopes, and I myself wanted to explore a bigger world outside our small town. But seeing my father bedridden and hearing his words, I made the decision to give up on college. When I told my mother about it that night, she held me tightly, crying. "Thank you, Eugene, but please, don't push yourself too hard." Her words carried both gratitude for my father's sacrifices and concern for me. At the time, my younger brother Sean was in his last year of middle school. When he heard about my decision, he looked shocked. The next day, he came to me with a serious expression. "Bro, I can't let you carry all this alone. I won't go to high school. I'll start working too. I'll even sell my trombone." His words stunned me. That trombone meant everything to him. When Sean started middle school, he joined the concert band. Honestly, both Dad and I were surprised. Dad frowned and said, "Why music, of all things?" But Sean was more determined than ever. "Dad, I have a favor to ask. I want a trombone." He had been playing the trombone in band practice and wanted one of his own. That was the first time I saw Sean openly express what he wanted. He had always been the kind of kid who held back, watching our faces before asking for anything. So when he finally said he wanted a trombone, I felt happy for him. "Dad, let's get it for him. Please." Dad hesitated but eventually nodded. If you think it's a good idea, then fine.
That was the first thing Sean ever had that truly belonged to him.
After that, he practiced every day. Bro, listen. My teacher praised me for the first time today. He looked so happy.
So when he said he'd sell his trombone, my chest tightened.
Sean, that's the one thing you can't give up.
But I can't just do what I love while you're the only one sacrificing everything.
That's not fair.
I grabbed his shoulders and spoke firmly.
I'm asking you to follow your passion. Go to high school, then college. Play music as much as you want. Sean looked at me in surprise.
In return, studied business in college.
Learn everything you can.
And one day, help me grow this company into something bigger.
Bro. Thank you.
Tears welled up in his eyes. But they weren't tears of sadness, they were the moment he found his own resolve. That was how Sean and I chose our separate paths while holding on to our bond as a family. I stayed to protect the company, and Sean pursued business while continuing the music that kept him going. And someday, I dream of the day when we'll come together again and turn this construction company into something great. The day Dad collapsed was the day our fight began. Before that, he had managed the entire company almost single-handedly. My father had shouldered everything, giving instructions to the craftsmen, drafting blueprints, and handling sales. So when he could no longer work, Overton Construction became a ship without a captain. I moved forward with only one thought: I had to protect this company.
But at first, I was completely lost.
The local craftsmen who had worked with my father for years supported me, and I was truly grateful for that. "Eugene, you're young, but you've got your dad's blood in you.
We'll help you. Let's keep this place going together."
I can't even begin to describe how much those words encouraged me. But reality was harsh.
With little experience or technical knowledge, I spent every day learning from the craftsmen while working alongside them.
It didn't matter if it was scorching hot or freezing cold.
We worked through sweat and mud. And when the day's labor finally ended, I'd head back to the office to handle invoices and estimates.
As I continued this routine, the realization hit me: things couldn't stay this way. The methods my father left behind had earned respect in our town.
But they wouldn't be enough to secure the company's future.
The world was changing, and we had to change with it.
The first step I took was improving efficiency.
With Sean's suggestion, we digitized the blueprints and bookkeeping that my father had always done by hand. At first, the older craftsmen were hesitant, but they gradually adapted, and soon our administrative workload was drastically reduced.
After graduating from college, Sean took charge of sales.
To expand our business, he reached out not only to local companies but also to major general contractors in the city.
"Bro, we might land a deal with a big firm. I'm going all in on this negotiation." Sean's talent for sales was beyond anything I had expected.
By emphasizing our strong track record and our commitment to never cutting corners, he slowly but surely secured bigger contracts. Our first project with a major contractor was a huge challenge. Unlike our previous work, the quality standards and deadlines were stricter than ever.
But we gave it everything we had. On site, mistakes weren't an option. We didn't just meet deadlines.
We aimed for a level of craftsmanship our workers could be proud of.
To achieve that, I never stopped working on the front lines. No matter how big the company grew,
I refused to become a boss who didn't understand the struggles of the job. I wanted to stay on the same level as my workers, to hear their concerns firsthand, and to find immediate solutions when problems arose.
That dedication paid off. We gained the trust of major contractors.
And the name Overton Construction began to spread beyond just local word of mouth. It took countless struggles to reach the point where clients said, "If it's Overton Construction, we know we can count on them." But no matter how tough the job, we never cut corners.
"Bro, our next deal is even bigger." "Yeah. Let's stay sharp and get it done."
One by one, we gave our all to every project. That built trust, which led to more jobs, and in turn, the company grew.
We hired more employees. My own workload increased.
I had more meetings, more desk work, but I never stopped going to the job sites, wearing my work clothes and getting covered in dirt. That's where I started. By being on site, I could understand the workers' struggles firsthand. Working alongside them built trust, and that unity made us stronger as a team. Growing the company was important, but above all, I never wanted to forget the heart of the work. And I believed that if I stayed true to that, the workers would feel the same.
Overton Construction wasn't just mine and Sean's.
It belonged to everyone who worked here. I wanted to make this a company we could all be proud of. With that in my heart, I put on my work clothes again today and headed to the site.
That evening, after finishing up on the job on site, I stepped outside the office for a quick break.
The moment I pulled a cigarette from my pocket and lit it, a familiar voice suddenly cut through the air.
Well, long time no see.
I turned around to see Ariana standing there in a sharp business suit. She still had that same arrogant expression from our middle school days, radiating an aura of "I'm an elite."
Ariana? Surprised? I never expected to run into you in front of the company where I have an interview today. I frowned. An interview? What do you mean? Oh, you haven't heard? It's Obertech Corporation, a fast-growing construction startup. It's making waves as an innovative leader in the industry. Obertech Corporation.
I had been hearing that name more often lately, but I never imagined Ariana would be interviewing there. I built my career at a multinational corporation after graduating from Harvard, but I decided to change jobs to expand my possibilities.
As a leader driving the industry forward. Sounds tough.
I responded casually, and she scoffed before continuing.
And what about you? Still living that stereotypical bottom-of-the-barrel life? You worked hard in middle school, but didn't I tell you? Fate can't be changed. But this company? From what I've heard, its hiring process is extremely strict, only top elites get in. A place far beyond someone like you. I almost laughed at her words but managed to hold it back.
Just then, the office door opened, and Sean stepped out.
There you are, Mr. Overton. The interview is about to begin. What? CEO? Interview? What's going on? Sean had probably overheard our conversation. I smirked and said,
"Oh, if the interviewer has to come fetch me, I've still got a long way to go."
We led Ariana to the interview room. Inside, Sean sat confidently in his suit. Surrounded by senior executives and HR personnel, the atmosphere was serious. As Ariana took her seat, Sean spoke in a formal tone. Thank you for coming today. We will now begin the interview for Obertech Corporation. For a brief moment, Ariana looked confused. And then, the real shock hit.
I took my seat directly in front of her.
Her expression wavered between disbelief and confusion. You're kidding. You're really? Yeah. I'm the CEO of Obertech Corporation. No way. I began speaking slowly. Overton Construction, my family's company, has been handling local projects since my father's time.
But my brother and I expanded our business to bring innovation to the construction industry. That's why we founded Obertech Corporation.
Ariana was at a loss for words. I continued, watching her reaction. Obertech isn't just another construction company. Our goal is to combine cutting-edge technology with skilled craftsmanship to create the infrastructure of the future. And you were right. This company only hires elites. But our definition of elite isn't just about academic credentials or job titles. It includes real-world experience, resilience, and the ability to support others. Ariana stared at me in disbelief. You are the CEO of a company like this? I shrugged.
Back in middle school,
you told me that fate can't be changed. But I believe the opposite. Fate can be changed. It's something you carve out for yourself. Sean smirked and spoke up. Now then, Ariana, why don't you tell us about your experience so far? For a moment, she seemed dazed, but she quickly pulled herself back into the reality of the interview, albeit looking slightly uncomfortable. We watched her calmly through the whole thing. As the interview progressed, Ariana tried to maintain her composure, but her unease was obvious. After the HR panel had finished their questions, I spoke again. Ariana, earlier you said you came here to expand your possibilities. What exactly do you want to achieve at this company? Well, I want to leverage my experience to contribute to the company's growth through business strategy and a global perspective. I see. But Obertech Corporation doesn't run on theories alone. People who don't understand the realities of the sites get exposed quickly. If you want to be a part of this company, you need to understand what's happening on the sites first. The sites? Yeah. And it won't be easy. You'd have to ditch the suit, put on work clothes, and be ready to get covered in dirt. If you're willing to spend the first 3 months working on site as part of your training, I'll consider hiring you. Ariana stared at me, a mix of shock and hesitation on her face. Wait, bro, seriously? She was mocking you just a minute ago for wearing work clothes. You really think she can handle working on site? Ariana clenched her teeth. I sincerely apologize for my previous remarks. I will participate in the on-site training. So I ask for your consideration. A few days later, as part of her interview process, Ariana joined the site training. She started with simple tasks, but it was obvious she was out of her element. The workers eyed her skeptically. Mr. Overton, are you sure about this? She looks like she belongs in a high-end office, not on a construction site. That depends on her. We'll see soon enough if she's all talk. Even as I said that, a small part of me held some expectations for Ariana. I knew her pride and competitive nature from our school days. If channeled right, those traits could serve her well here too. However, by the end of the first day, Ariana's work clothes were covered in mud, and exhaustion was evident on her face. But as she left, she turned to me and said, I'll be back tomorrow. Oh, that's good to hear. As the days went by, she gradually adapted to the site. At first, she reluctantly did cleaning and carried tools, but over time, she started following instructions properly. The workers' attitudes toward her began to soften. One day, she tried lifting a heavy load on her own, failed, and fell backward onto the ground. Sean, who had been working nearby, extended a hand to her. Hey, don't push yourself too hard. You okay? Thanks, but if I don't do it myself, I won't earn anyone's respect. Sean raised an eyebrow at her response, then chuckled. You've got guts. Keep that up, and maybe even my brother will acknowledge you. Mr. Overton. He's strict, isn't he? Yeah, but that's because he believes in the on-site work. He thinks the real reward in this job comes from seeing something you built help others. That's why he doesn't acknowledge just anyone. But if you don't give up, he'll always lend a hand. Ariana fell silent, lost in thought. As she listened to Sean, memories of our middle school days surfaced. We had always competed for the top rank in class, especially in math and science. We would challenge each other's answers and even get into heated debates. But there was one thing Ariana struggled with: home economics. Ariana is a so-called heiress. She had grown up in a privileged household where maids handled everything. So practical skills like cooking and sewing were completely foreign to her. One day, in class, we were assigned a project to sew a small fabric toy. I had helped my mother with sewing before and was comfortable with it. But Ariana? She didn't even know how to thread a sewing machine. As she fumbled at her station, whispers started circulating around the room. Wow, of course, Ariana doesn't know how to sew. She probably has servants do everything for her. Must be nice not having to do anything yourself.
Her hands trembled, and her face turned red. But even then, she refused to ask for help.
I walked over to her desk without hesitation. Hey, let me see that. What? Your pattern's off from the start. And your thread's running the wrong way. I don't need help. I can do it myself. No, you can't. Stop being stubborn. Just let someone who knows how do it. But everyone's already laughing at me. If I accept help, it'll just be more embarrassing. Ha, who cares if they laugh? Everyone has something they're bad at. It's fine if you're not good at this. But if you give up now, you'll just prove them right. You'll always be the pampered princess they say you are.
I took Ariana's hand, guiding the thread in the right direction and showing her how to use the sewing machine.
Here, now you try. I'll watch. Thanks.
She hesitated but then clumsily started moving her hands.
I still remember what she muttered to me back then. Hey, Eugene, why are you so good at this?
In my house, we had to do everything ourselves. Cooking, cleaning, sewing.
If we couldn't, we got scolded.
When Mom was busy, I took over.
That's impressive.
In my house, if I couldn't do something, the housekeepers would just take care of it.
Maybe. That kind of life actually limited me.
After thinking for a moment, I told her,
whether you limit yourself or expand your possibilities, that's up to you. You can either decide you can't do it and stop there, or you can take a shot and see if you can. It's your choice.
Her eyes widened slightly, and after a moment, she nodded firmly.
I get it. I'll give it my best. After that, she slowly started putting more effort into home economics. That memory flashed through Ariana's mind. Whether you limit yourself or expand your possibilities, it's up to you, huh?
Then, she stood up and started carrying the materials again. There was a faint but familiar determination in her eyes,
the same look she had back in middle school. Sean smirked as he watched her. Looks like she's still got some room to grow.
I watched as she slowly but surely improved. By the end of her training period, she came to me with a proposal in hand. Mr. Overton, please give me another chance. Based on what I've learned here, I've put together a new business plan.
All right, let me see it. Her proposal outlined strategies to improve efficiency on site and introduce new technologies to cut costs.
It also included marketing strategies to enhance our competitive edge in the industry.
You're serious about this?
Yes. Over these past weeks, I've seen how tough the site is, but I've also learned how much pride these workers take in their craft.
I want to use my knowledge and experience to support that.
I stared at her proposal for a moment before nodding.
All right, let's give it a shot. I'll take responsibility for it.
Ariana's plan became a new project that bridged the sites and the corporate side of our business. As the results started showing, she became an invaluable part of the company.
Once, we had been rivals. Now, we were working toward the same goal. That evening, we held a party to celebrate the success of Ariana's first major project.
As we looked back on the journey, we quietly clinked glasses.
Didn't expect you to come this far. Honestly, I'm impressed. Thanks.
But this is just the beginning.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to what's next.
A few days after the party, Ariana invited me to lunch. The restaurant she chose was in a high-end hotel, one of the best in the city.
Today's on me, so don't worry about anything.
I hesitated slightly before taking a seat. We had eaten together at company meetings before, but this was the first time it was just the two of us. Once our meals were served and we took a moment to relax, Ariana finally spoke, her voice filled with quiet determination.
Eugene, about that interview day. I want to formally apologize. I blinked, surprised. I had thought it was all in the past, but Ariana's expression was completely serious. You don't have to. I don't hold a grudge. You had your own struggles too, right? Even so, I said awful things that day. Looking back, I realize how arrogant I was and how small my world really was. She took a sip of tea, her gaze steady as she continued. I graduated from university, got a job at the company my parents chose for me, and was set to marry the fiancé they selected. That was supposed to be my future. But one day, I suddenly realized. Why did I work so hard in school? What was I really living for? I remained silent, listening to her words. At that moment, I suddenly remembered something from middle school. Do you remember that home economics class when you taught me how to sew? Oh yeah, I remember. You were on the verge of tears because you messed up the stitches, right? That's right. And you told me, it's okay to fail. Just try again. If you do, it'll become your strength. Ariana smiled nostalgically, but for a brief moment, I saw tears glistening in her eyes. I never forgot those words. That's why I chose to step off the path my parents had set for me and live by my own strength. But when I saw you in a work uniform that day, I assumed you were just following in your father's footsteps too. I was wrong. And that's why I said such cruel things. Sensing her voice trembling, I gently reassured her. It's okay. I don't know how much you struggled, but at the very least, you're standing on your own feet now, carving out your own path. That's all that matters, isn't it? Ariana nodded, holding back tears, and let out a small smile. Since joining Obertech Corporation, her perspective had changed as she saw the way the craftsmen worked and the philosophy that drove them. Working here made me realize what it truly means to build your own future with your own hands. That's why I've decided to break off my engagement. I was caught off guard by her sudden confession. Are you sure? Your parents won't take that lightly, will they? I know. But I'm not afraid anymore. Seeing the people here, I realized I want to be stronger. No matter what my parents think, I'm choosing my own path. There was a conviction in her voice that I had never heard before. Then I'll support you. It's your decision. Thank you. Her face showed no hesitation. People can change. Watching Ariana, I was reminded of that fact. And at that moment, I reaffirmed my own determination to keep pushing forward. As we enjoyed our meal, lingering in the conversation, a voice suddenly rang out from the entrance. Ariana, I knew I'd find you here. The moment I saw the man standing there, I immediately knew who he was. A young man in a tailored suit. A sharp face, a luxury watch, and expensive shoes. Ewan Simons, Ariana's fiancé. Ariana froze in place, visibly shaken. Ewan? What are you doing here? Ewan smirked as he approached. What do you mean? It wasn't hard to track your movements. You abandoned your responsibilities as my fiancé. And I was curious to see what you were doing in a place like this. His gaze shifted to me. And here you are, with a man covered in dirt. That's not like you, Ariana. His words were laced with mockery. But I didn't flinch. I met his stare head-on and spoke calmly. I'm Eugene Overton, Ariana's colleague. And you? What brings you here? Ewan scoffed. I am her fiancé and the next president of Simons Holdings. Unlike you, I belong to a different world. Ariana immediately spoke up. Ewan, stop it. Eugene has nothing to do with this. But he ignored her and continued. Ariana, enough of this nonsense. Stop wasting your time here. You have a much more important role to fulfill, becoming my wife. Ariana's face paled. Yet, I didn't glare at Ewan. Instead, I remained composed as I spoke. No matter how prestigious your family is,
Her life is hers to decide.
For a brief moment, Ewan's expression darkened. But he quickly masked it with a smirk. You talk big. But someone like you wouldn't understand. Ariana needs me. Ariana's voice trembled as she finally spoke up. Stop it, Ewan. I don't want to be just another ornament in your life. Ewan's expression shifted.
His confident smirk wavered.
What did you just say? I'm calling off the engagement. I've realized something while working at Eugene's company. I found the joy of forging my own path. If I stay with you, I feel like I'll lose that freedom.
Ewan stared at Ariana in shock, as if he had lost his words.
Then, he turned his cold gaze toward me again. You've been filling her head with nonsense, haven't you?
I shrugged off his accusation with ease.
I haven't told her anything.
She made this decision on her own.
You might not understand.
But some people prefer to live freely rather than being forced into a predetermined life.
Ewan remained silent for a moment. Wait. Eugene Overton? Hold on. You're the CEO of Obertech Corporation?
He narrowed his eyes and studied my face closely.
Oh, I remember now. Your company does business with ours. Hard to believe a small-scale company like yours thinks it can stand on equal footing with us. And yet, here you are, daring to talk back to me?
His condescending tone made my brow twitch slightly.
Ewan, stop.
This has nothing to do with Eugene.
Ariana tried to intervene, but Ewan simply smirked and ignored her. Nothing to do with him?
Oh, it has everything to do with him.
A company like yours should be grateful for getting a contract with us. And yet, if the next CEO is treated with such disrespect, maybe I should reconsider that deal. I could crush your company in an instant.
His words were a blatant threat, but I remained unfazed.
I met his gaze calmly and replied, Crush us? Be my guest.
But before you do, you should consider how that decision will impact your own company.
What did you just say?
I took a step forward and locked eyes with him.
You act like you hold all the power,
but in reality, your company isn't as invincible as you think.
There are always consequences. I replied with a smile. That might be true. Ewan shut his mouth, narrowed his eyes, and glared at me.
Beside him, Ariana looked at me with fear in her eyes.
Eugene, are you really okay? I turned to Ariana and gave her a firm nod. I'm fine. Protecting our employees is part of my job as CEO.
And if it means supporting your choice, I'll do whatever it takes.
Ewan, unable to hide his frustration, raised his voice. You've got some nerve.
I don't care if it's for your employees or whatever.
But don't think for a second that a small fry like you can stand against me.
I smiled, letting his words roll off me, and replied calmly.
I'm not standing against you. I'm simply protecting the path we need to take. No matter who stands in the way.
Ewan glared at me for a while, then suddenly let out a cold chuckle.
Fine, do as you please. But Ariana, someday you'll realize just how much you're giving up by rejecting me.
Just as Ewan sneered and threw those words at Ariana, a deep voice echoed from behind.
Ah, Mr. Overton. It's always a pleasure. Turning around, I saw him, Ewan's father, Mr. Simons, the current chairman of Simons Holdings.
Unlike Ewan, he carried an air of authority while still maintaining a calm demeanor. Yet, in his eyes, there was a sharp glint of discipline. Mr. Simons extended his hand for a handshake, and as I took it, he enclosed mine within both of his. I sincerely apologize for the rudeness my son has shown you today.
The atmosphere shifted instantly. Ewan's face twisted with shock and confusion as he interjected. Dad, why the hell are you apologizing to someone like him? This small company is nothing to us, isn't it?
Mr. Simon shot him a stern look and barked.
You fool!
The room fell silent.
Yuan, overwhelmed, was left speechless. You have no idea about the current state of our company. Have you ever even bothered to research how crucial Obertech Corporation is to us? Yuan's face contorted in confusion. Crucial? What do you mean?
Mr. Simons let out a heavy sigh and continued in a firm voice. Obertech Corporation manufactures the ultra-precision ceramic valves used in 90% of our products.
Without these components, our products would lose both their durability and reliability. Ceramic valves.
Mr. Simons took a step forward, his voice growing even firmer.
That's right.
These components were developed with maximum functionality in mind.
Drawing from Mr. Overton's extensive experience in the construction industry,
they are manufactured with extremely delicate technology that no other company can replicate.
Without Mr. Overton's company,
our production lines would come to a near halt.
And you were willing to cut them off just because of your personal feelings?
Yuan's face turned pale, and he was at a loss for words. To disregard such a critical business partner.
Apologize to Mr. Overton immediately. Though his face twisted in frustration, Yuan stepped forward and stood before me. I'm sorry.
Seeing him like that, I responded calmly.
Apologies aren't necessary. Let's just end this discussion here.
To be honest, I was already considering re-evaluating our contract with you.
Mr. Simon's face instantly went pale. Mr. Overton, please, anything but that.
If we lose our contract with Obertech Corporation because of our mistakes, it will have a serious impact on Simons Holdings' future.
He clung to me, desperately pleading. I will take full responsibility. Please, allow us to continue our contract as it is.
I stared at Mr. Simons, pretending to think for a moment before speaking.
Continuing the contract is possible. However, I have one condition.
Mr. Simons looked at me even more intently, nodding with a serious expression.
Please, name it. If it is within our power, we will do whatever it takes.
I cast a glance at Yuan, my gaze cold as I quietly stated my terms.
Yuan and Ariana's engagement must be officially annulled. Silence fell over the room once again. Yuan's face twisted in shock as he shouted. What?
There's no way I can accept such a condition. Mr. Simons raised a hand to silence him and spoke quietly.
Be quiet, Yuan.
Mr. Simons turned back to face me, met my gaze once more, placed a hand over his chest, and spoke.
Understood. I will personally ensure that the engagement is annulled. If I do so, will you continue the contract? I gave a slight nod.
As long as that is upheld, I intend to continue doing business as usual.
Mr. Simons let out a deep breath and expressed his gratitude once again.
Though Yuan looked dissatisfied, he had no choice but to leave with his father.
Ariana looked up at me with concern and asked hesitantly, Eugene, was this really the right decision?
I gave her a reassuring smile and answered.
I couldn't just stand by and let you remain unhappy.
Besides, in business, negotiations like this are only natural.
Relief and gratitude filled Ariana's eyes as she gently took my hand. After the incident, Yuan continued to face harsh reprimands from his father, Mr. Simons.
Eventually, he was stripped of his position as heir.
He was reassigned as a regular employee at one of Simons Holdings' regional factories.
Rumors later spread within the company that he finally understood his own shortcomings after experiencing the harsh realities of on-site work. Meanwhile, Obertech Corporation continued to thrive. Its advanced technology and integrity earned recognition, securing a massive contract with a leading international aerospace manufacturer.
The ultra-precision ceramic valves proved their worth in the aviation sector, rapidly increasing Obertech's presence in the global market. As a result, the company recorded its highest revenue in history, solidifying its position in the industry.
Amidst these successful days, one day, Ariana suddenly called me out. The meeting place was a small park along the path we used to take to school in middle school. The setting sun painted the park in warm hues, and a gentle breeze rustled through the air as Ariana stood there, looking slightly nervous.
Eugene, I'm sorry for calling you out like this. There's something I really need to talk to you about.
Sensing something unusual in her demeanor, I gave a small chuckle in response.
What's with the formal tone? The whole thing with Yuan is already over, isn't it? It's not about that. Ariana took a deep breath, then looked me straight in the eyes. I've always liked you, Eugene.
Her unexpected words made me stop breathing for a moment.
What? Ariana blushed slightly and gave a shy smile.
Back then, when you taught me how to sew, I was moved by how kind you were. I had never met someone who treated me with such warmth.
From that moment on, I couldn't help but keep my eyes on you. But I didn't have the confidence to say anything.
Her words carried all the feelings she had bottled up over the years. Even when my engagement to Yuan was decided, deep down, you were always in my heart.
But I felt like I had no right to say anything.
Listening to her, I let out a small, wry smile.
How was I supposed to know that?
You should have told me sooner.
I'm sorry.
But now, I can finally say it. I want to be by your side, Eugene. Her eyes were steady, filled with unwavering resolve.
After a brief silence, I smiled and responded.
With you saying that, I really can't think of a reason to say no. Ariana's eyes widened in surprise, but then her face lit up with joy.
Really?
I nodded and took her hand in mine.
I've always had my eyes on you too. Back in middle school, I think I mostly saw you as a rival I didn't want to lose to you.
But when we were making that toy together, seeing how determined and hardworking you were, I realized.
I started to care about you in a different way.
Ariana's eyes shimmered with tears, but she smiled brightly. As the sunset stretched our shadows long across the ground, we made a silent promise to walk into the future together. What we once thought was just a clash of wills had, over time, become something much deeper, a connection that finally came together. When faced with overwhelming hardship, most people feel like there's no way forward. In those moments, it's okay to lean on someone, to take a break.
But destiny can be changed.
From now on, Ariana and I will take charge of our fate together. We'll move toward a better future.
High school graduate? Why is someone like that even sitting here?
I suddenly felt suffocated. It was a mixer at the weekend. I only agreed to join as a last-minute addition because my best friend from school begged me.
But I never expected to be met with such blatant rejection.
I was used to people looking down on my education. So her words didn't bother me as much as the sheer arrogance and self-centeredness of someone like her.
Was this just how daughters of CEOs turned out? There's this whole idea that education isn't everything, but come on, a high school graduate? That's just unbelievable. This is a waste of time. I can't stay in such an embarrassing place.
With that, she threw down her words and stormed out of the restaurant. The heavy silence that fell over the mixer never lifted, and the night ended in awkwardness.
To me, she was just someone I happened to meet at a random mixer, someone who lived in a completely different world from mine. That should have been the end of it.
So, I never could have imagined that our paths would cross again after she had so thoroughly dismissed me. The next time I saw her was at a prestigious award ceremony. When she spotted me standing on stage, her eyes widened as if she were witnessing something completely impossible. A soft blue spotlight illuminated the entire stage, and the hall was filled with distinguished guests. Among them were industry leaders and executives from famous corporations.
Why are you here?
That night, she would come to deeply regret the way she had treated me. And from that moment on, both of our fates would change forever.
My name is Henry. I work in architecture. As both a designer and a planner, my days are thankfully busy.
Today, I had carved out some time to travel all the way to the outskirts of a rural area.
A former museum, huh? As expected.
The architecture from the era when foreign influences began to arrive is full of inspiration drawn from new cultures.
There must have been a lot of greenery around this place, too.
I took photos from every angle of the abandoned museum, carefully studying its structure through the slightly crumbling walls. Exploring old and used buildings like this was something of a personal passion.
For someone in design, there's always something to learn from the past.
As I wandered around the building, a sudden gust of wind rustled through the air, carrying a faint sound with it. Perhaps because I was completely alone in this place, my feet instinctively moved toward the direction of the wind. It led me to what must have once been a pathway to the museum, lined with overgrown trees that framed the trail like an arch.
These leaves, cherry blossoms?
So, this row of cherry trees must have been a part of the museum as well.
Maybe I should come back when they're in bloom.
Looking at the tiny buds beginning to form, I felt the quiet power of nature.
I understood the strength trees and flowers possessed. Especially cherry blossoms. I loved them.
No matter where I was, I would always find myself looking up at them, drawn to their quiet beauty. They had carried me through more difficult times than I could count. When I gave up on going to college and decided to learn architecture while working, it was beneath the cherry blossoms, waiting for them to bloom, that I made my decision. The project I was working on now was something I wanted to incorporate the theme of harmony with nature into. That was precisely why I had been offered the job. It aligned with my core philosophy of blending architecture and the natural world. As I stood there, reflecting on both nature's comfort and the work ahead, something unexpected happened.
My personal phone started vibrating.
Feeling slightly annoyed that my peaceful moment had been interrupted, I glanced at the screen. A familiar name was displayed.
Hey, what's up? Aren't you at work right now? Henry.
The sheer volume of his voice made me pull the phone away from my ear.
It seems like he called from the office.
From the yelling, I can tell they're being scolded for something.
I waited for a moment before speaking again. So? What's going on, Keith?
Henry. I'm in the biggest crisis of my life.
I've never been this cornered before. I need your help.
What? This was Keith.
My best friend since middle school.
He had graduated straight from Japan's top national university and was now working at a major corporation, what you'd call an elite. Despite that, he had always been a down-to-earth, kind, and genuine guy.
He never treated me any differently. Even when I was the only one in high school who didn't go to college.
I was grateful to have a friend like him who remained the same over the years. And now, out of nowhere, he was asking for my help.
Okay, calm down and tell me what's going on. If it's something I can do, I'll help.
We're one guy short for a mixer.
A 2-on-2, and we're missing one guy.
That's a total disaster.
You'll help, right? Man. I knew I could count on you.
I nearly dropped my phone in sheer exhaustion.
Keith was brilliant, but he was also unbelievably scatterbrained. I clenched my teeth to keep my irritation in check. A grown man over 30 calling me at work about something like this? Seriously? Just to clarify, you're telling me that you were scrambling to find someone for a mixer, couldn't find anyone, and decided to call me in the middle of my workday, sounding like it was an emergency? You do remember I hate these things, right? Of course I do.
That's why I already asked people I met through work first.
But I couldn't find anyone, so I called you as a last resort, knowing I'd get yelled at for it. I was even ready to cancel.
But then, the girl, she's one of my juniors from college, sent me a message saying,
I'm really looking forward to it. And I didn't want to take that away from her. Henry, is it really impossible for you? I let out a deep sigh. This was just like Keith.
He always put other people's feelings ahead of his own. Even the fact that he waited until the last minute to ask me was so typical of him.
Fine. When is it? Keith practically shouted his thanks. Then I heard his boss yelling at him again in the background.
I chuckled at the familiar scene playing out in my mind before hanging up.
The mixer was set for the weekend, and thankfully, I could make time for it.
I hated these kinds of events, but I figured I owed it to Keith to at least show up and not ruin the mood. Before I knew it, the weekend arrived.
The restaurant was in an upscale district, surrounded by high-end establishments. Mixers had gotten pretty expensive these days, apparently. I wrapped up my work and rushed to the venue. When I arrived, the waiter led me to the table, where Keith and two women were already seated. I immediately regretted agreeing to this.
Still, I greeted them and took my seat.
Keith was leading the event, as expected.
It was a simple 2-on-2 setup. I felt bad for being the extra guy they had to drag in, but it was too late now. At the very least, I had to make sure everyone had a good time. But by the time I realized that this wasn't a normal mixer, but rather an evening of amusement for a spoiled rich girl, it was already too late. The women were Lily and Monica happened to know Keith.
Monica was Keith's junior from university, which meant she was also an elite.
My first impression of her was that she was kind and attentive, always smiling. Lily, on the other hand, exuded an unmistakable aura of privilege. While the rest of us had barely sat down, she had already started drinking her wine without waiting for a toast. Apparently, she used to work at the same company as Monica and was her friend.
But even at a glance, they seemed like complete opposites. The atmosphere of the mixer was carried by Keith's lively energy and Monica's calm presence.
At some point, I had even forgotten it was a mixer, simply enjoying it as a casual dinner gathering.
But then, the woman who had remained silent until now suddenly spoke. Come to think of it, I haven't asked you yet. Where did you graduate from?
I heard you're in architecture now, but...
Huh?
She had interrupted the conversation just to ask about my academic background.
I could feel the air in the room freeze. Keith and Monica stopped mid-motion, their faces stiff. My education. Well, I only finished high school. High school graduate, you say?
Her face twitched ever so slightly, and she seemed unable to hold back her next words.
Still wiping the condensation from her glass, she didn't even try to hide her irritation. In this day and age, someone who didn't even go to college. How can you sit here without the slightest bit of shame?
Her voice, calm at first, gradually rose in intensity. Her slightly raised eyebrows and squared shoulders made it seem like she was standing above me, looking down.
To think I'm having dinner with a man who only finished high school. How embarrassing. Right, Monica? Were you mocking me by introducing me to someone like this?
She turned to Monica, but Monica was too stunned to respond.
As if I could sit here, smiling and eating with someone like him. It's humiliating, a complete waste of my time.
I'm not saying education is everything, but in my world, high school graduates don't even exist.
I see.
She was that type of person. The kind who saw education as a ranking system and looked down on anyone who didn't meet her standards. I had met people like her countless times before.
So, I simply responded with, I see.
Keith, desperate to salvage the situation, scrambled to redirect the conversation. Well, yeah, Henry is a high school graduate, but he owns his own firm now, and his annual income is...
Oh, so he clawed his way up from nothing? How impressive. She looked at me again, but my unwavering expression seemed to irritate her even more.
Monica, I said I wanted to do something fun and student-like for a change, but if we're doing a mixer, at least make sure everyone's on the same educational level.
I'm done here. Let's go, Monica. Okay. Without a second thought, she dragged Monica out of the restaurant. Keith and I were left at the table, just watching them go.
A few moments later, Monica returned, quickly finishing her now melting sorbet. The heavy atmosphere never lifted, and the mixer ended in silence. Keith gave me a gesture, indicating he'd call me later, and I found myself walking alone through the quiet streets.
More than anything, I felt bad for Monica.
She had genuinely been looking forward to this.
Just as I sighed, lost in thought. Henry.
I turned to see Monica running toward me.
Monica? Wait, weren't you going the other way? What's wrong? I just wanted to talk to you. I wanted to apologize.
I could already guess what she was apologizing for, but the fact that she had run after me meant she truly cared. I nodded, and we began walking slowly in the direction she had come from.
I'm really sorry for how Lily acted. Her family owns Anderson Construction. You've probably heard of it, given your industry.
I used to work there,
too. But my connection to Lily goes back even further.
My mother was a housekeeper for her family, so I practically grew up working for them.
Monica spoke while looking down. It was probably not a pleasant memory for her.
The fact that she had once been a servant and Lily a noble daughter made sense, considering how Lily had treated her in the past. I quit Anderson Construction years ago, and I hadn't seen Lily in a long time. Then, out of nowhere, she demanded I set up a mixer.
I knew how she was.
She truly believes that education and social status define a person's worth. I thought maybe she had changed over the years.
So I agreed, but...
So, when I showed up as the replacement, she got pissed off that I was just a high school graduate.
Ah. No, that's not. I mean, I'm really sorry. Keith didn't know anything, I promise.
He spoke so highly of you.
I was actually excited to meet you, too. I let out a hearty laugh, trying to lighten the mood. Keith likes to exaggerate.
I'm still a work in progress.
I did eventually get a degree through a correspondence program, but back then, I had to work while learning everything on my own. And honestly, nothing's changed.
I'm still working my ass off.
I grew up in a single-parent home, with a younger brother to support.
I had to provide for my family, but I also wanted to study architecture.
Guess I'd been selfish since I was a kid.
Monica lifted her head slightly.
I kept my gaze forward, but my mind wandered back to those days. My family was never well off. My father passed away when I was young, and my mother, who had no family connections to rely on, worked tirelessly to raise me and my younger brother.
The only luxuries we had were birthdays and cherry blossom viewing.
I especially loved these outings the three of us would take together. With a lunchbox packed full of my brother's favorite omelet, we'd head to the cherry blossom-lined riverbank near our home. Mom, why don't cherry blossoms bloom all year round?
They're so pretty.
That's because cherry blossoms work really hard.
They endure and wait so they can show you their most beautiful flowers in spring. That's why they're so special.
I love them, too.
Even now, I still remember the way my mother spoke as we gazed up at the trees in full bloom. It was thanks to her that I never grew resentful of our poverty. But all the years of hard work took their toll, and by the time I was a second year in high school, my mother had to quit her full-time job.
Our financial situation became even tougher.
Even with my part-time wages added in, covering living expenses and both my brother's and my education was a constant struggle. So, I gave up on college and took a full-time job at the construction site where I had been working part-time. I can never forget the look of guilt on my mother's face when I told her I wasn't going to university.
That's why I enrolled in a correspondence program, so she wouldn't have to feel that way.
I had always been interested in architecture ever since I started working, and despite the grueling schedule, I managed to become a licensed architect. My brother successfully graduated from university, and my mother was finally able to live comfortably without overworking herself. Before I knew it, I had entered my 30s.
But my family's happiness was my happiness, that was enough for me. And I got to do what I loved, architecture.
I had no other wishes.
Henry?
Oh, sorry. Anyway, you really don't need to worry about any of this, Monica. I checked my watch to make sure I catch the last train,
Then looked back at her.
Monica seemed restless, opening and closing her hands as if hesitating over something. Then, all at once, she turned to face me.
I think you're amazing, Henry. You're someone who works hard. Not many people can become a licensed architect while working. And the way you didn't even flinch at Lily's remarks, that was really cool. You think so?
The station came into view, and I saw that I'd make it in time for the last train. Feeling a little embarrassed from her praise, I tried to change the subject by mentioning it.
That's when I noticed.
She had lightly grabbed the sleeve of my suit. Her face was slightly flushed as she whispered, almost hesitantly,
Would you meet me again? Just the two of us this time?
The train arrival announcement played in the background, but all I could focus on were her eyes, locked onto mine. A week later, I found myself in a grand ballroom of a luxury hotel. Wearing a properly tailored suit and neatly styled hair for the first time in a while.
Since that mixer, I had barely spoken to Monica. My days remained as busy as ever. In fact, things might get even busier from now on.
Because today was the award ceremony for one of the most prestigious architecture competitions, an event every architect dreams of winning.
Winning an award here would skyrocket my reputation. And if my name gained recognition, I could provide an even better life for my family. That was the only thing that truly mattered to me.
I felt a bit self-conscious about getting ahead of myself, but before I could dwell on it, a staff member guided me to my seat. As I walked, I couldn't help but notice the names of the sponsors displayed prominently around the venue.
Anderson Construction, the top sponsor of the competition. And in the VIP section, I spotted none other than Mr. Anderson and Lily.
I hadn't given our last encounter much thought, but I definitely still remembered it. I never imagined I'd run into her again, especially not this soon.
For a brief moment, I wondered if I just had incredibly bad luck. 10 minutes before the ceremony began, the judges started entering.
Then, the event officially commenced. The opening remarks by Mr. Anderson, the introduction of the judges, and the announcement of the winners in each category followed. Each winner was required to give a brief speech on stage.
I was a finalist in the environmental symbiosis category.
I was confident in my work, but as the announcement approached, I felt my heartbeat quicken.
And now, we move on to the environmental symbiosis category. The grand prize winner is Henry.
I clenched my fist slightly and stepped up to the stage to give my speech.
More than anything, I wanted to share the news with my family. But I kept my focus and spoke from the heart. Then, suddenly, bang!
The sound of something hitting the floor echoed through the hall, drawing everyone's attention.
But just as quickly, their gazes returned to me.
I will continue striving to be an architect who bridges people and the environment. Thank you very much for this incredible honor. I concluded my speech as if nothing had happened and returned to my seat. From where I stood on stage, I had seen exactly what had caused the noise.
Lily had dropped her phone the moment our eyes met.
After the award ceremony, there was a scheduled networking session with the judges and sponsors.
But honestly, I was considering skipping it.
Something told me it would only lead to unnecessary trouble. However, shortly after the award ceremony quietly came to an end, Mr. Anderson quickly approached me. Standing beside him, avoiding eye contact, was Lily.
Henry, congratulations once again. I'm Travis Anderson, CEO of Anderson Construction. This is truly an incredible achievement. Starting from nothing,
building your own firm, and winning this prestigious award at such a young age.
It's no ordinary feat. I've been in this industry for decades. And I can tell you, people like you don't come around often. Absolutely remarkable.
He let out a hearty laugh and gave me a firm slap on the shoulder with his large hand. To be honest, when my daughter told me she had to suffer through a meal with a high school graduate architect, I thought she was joking. I assumed you were either some nobody or, at best, running a small workshop.
But the more I learned about your work and achievements, the more impressed I became.
And then, just a few days ago, my daughter started acting strangely.
When I pressed her about it, imagine my surprise when she admitted the person she was talking about was you. Now that was unexpected. I stayed silent, letting him speak. I must say, Henry, you are even more impressive than the rumors suggest. Lily, come on, now. This is fate, isn't it? At least introduce yourself properly. You won't meet architects of this caliber every day. Even with her father's prompting, Lily's response was curt. About the other day. I apologize.
She barely looked at me, her gaze slightly averted. Mr. Anderson let out a low, pointed cough, his sharp eyes watching his daughter.
Lily, that's rude. You saw the presentations of the competition, didn't you? Do you even understand who you're speaking to?
Lily flinched slightly. With clear reluctance, she straightened her posture, took a slow breath, and spoke again,
this time, properly addressing me. Let me formally apologize for the other day.
My father is right, your award-winning project was truly outstanding.
I look forward to working with you.
She met my eyes briefly, her demeanor slightly stiff but earnest. From a distance, she still looked like the perfect refined lady. But speaking with her directly, I could sense a certain awkwardness. Even after being reprimanded, her personality hadn't changed. She was still very much herself. I gave Lily a slight nod and replied as gently as possible, likewise, I look forward to working with you. She lowered her gaze slightly, then gave a careful, polite bow before looking away again. Even as she stood there, I couldn't help but notice how striking her features were up close. Now then, Henry, as the hottest architect in the industry right now, I have a proposal for you.
Let's move to a more private setting and talk. I hesitated. Having a strong relationship with Anderson Construction would be an enormous advantage. But if things went south, my firm could be crushed in an instant. After a brief internal debate, I decided to hear him out. The discussion took place in a suite on the hotel's top floor. The offer was that Anderson Construction wanted to collaborate on my latest project. This project is a revitalization plan for a regional resort facility. Since they wanted to make full use of the natural surroundings, they reached out to me, as I have always promoted harmony with nature. It's a major project. Having a powerhouse like Anderson Construction involved would be a huge advantage. I was worried about potential conflicts, but Mr. Anderson assured me that he fully understood the importance of preserving the local environment. In the end, I chose to trust him. And so, this massive project officially became a collaboration with Anderson Construction. But the real surprise was that Lily was assigned as their liaison to my firm. 2 weeks later, after securing partnerships with additional companies, the project was officially in motion. As part of the initial phase, I traveled to the site with the project leads for a field assessment. Of course, Lily was there. She was our point of contact with Anderson Construction, so that was expected. What I hadn't expected was that the representative from one of the collaborating firms was none other than Monica. We hadn't talked about work at all during the mixer, so I was completely caught off guard. Wow! I can't believe we get to work together, Henry. Let's create an amazing facility. She beamed, her enthusiasm evident. Meanwhile, Lily remained as composed as ever. She was wearing a suit, but with high heels, completely impractical for the location. Her expression was difficult to read. I chose not to say anything and instead headed straight for the site. The abandoned resort facility stood in stark contrast to the rich natural landscape surrounding it. It was clear that the original developers had tried to replicate an urban-style resort, completely disregarding the character of the area. The three of us stood there, reviewing the documents while taking in the scenery.
Then, Lily finally spoke.
This place is so rural. It's just mountains everywhere. Why don't we just expand the land and turn it into Japan's largest resort? There's no point in preserving any of this.
Lily. All right, Lily, Monica, we have a meeting with the city officials and local residents next.
Let's attend and hear what they have to say.
Lily's expression made it clear she had no interest, but Monica managed to drag her along. I figured the best way for her to understand was to experience the situation firsthand. The community hall was packed. It was obvious how deeply the residents cared about this land.
As soon as the meeting began, opinions started flying. Would it be possible to restore the land and plant new trees? Our first priority should be preserving the nearby mountain ecosystem. Most of the concerns were about the environment. Monica diligently took notes, fully engaged in the discussion.
Lily, however, just watched with an uninterested expression before muttering under her breath.
They built a resort because they were poor, right? And now they want to protect the environment and fix their finances? That's such an unrealistic dream. It's almost funny. She probably thought she was speaking quietly.
But the entire room had gone silent, and every single person turned to look at her. Even Lily, usually so composed, seemed caught off guard by the sudden attention. I immediately grabbed her arm and pulled her outside. The moment we were out of the hall, she yanked her arm away and snapped at me.
What are you doing? Are you saying I'm wrong? You're not wrong. The fact that this town is struggling financially is a reality.
That's why they built the resort in the first place.
See?
They're being ridiculous. Clinging to their land, lacking proper education, and still expecting some miracle. Before she could finish, I instinctively grabbed her wrist. She must have thought I was angry because her body noticeably flinched.
Listen, Lily. These people want to coexist with nature, but they also know they need financial stability. They're trying to do this the right way. And as an architect, I plan to fight for that,
to build a facility that protects the environment while drawing people in. I suddenly realized I had let my emotions take over and quickly released her.
I thought I was staying calm, but I had clearly gotten too heated.
Because this architecture that coexists with nature was my core philosophy.
An awkward silence fell between us.
Just as the thought crossed my mind that Lily might say she wanted to leave.
I'm only here because it's my job. I don't care about the environment or whatever. I'm going back inside.
As a company heiress, she wouldn't face any consequences if she left. It might just be my own bias, but I couldn't help feeling surprised that the word job came from Lily. For the next few days, we stayed in the area, visiting various locations and speaking with the residents. Some were wary of us, seeing us as nothing more than outsiders planning another large-scale development.
But in those moments, Monica's sincerity and approachable nature smoothed things over.
And at some point, without a word, Lily had switched from heels to sneakers. She joined us in every activity, barely taking breaks, walking through the mountains in town more than anyone else. One morning, before the sun had even fully risen, I stepped outside of our lodging only to find Lily already standing at the entrance.
Fully dressed and ready to go. You're up early. You were up late last night organizing documents, weren't you? Morning. I'm heading out first. She brushed off my concern and started walking away.
I hurried to grab my things and followed after her.
Wait, hang on.
It's still dark out, and these mountain paths are dangerous.
Besides, today's schedule doesn't start until the afternoon.
Even the city officials said it was fine to take it slow.
That's exactly the problem.
That whole "we'll do it later" mindset is how people end up missing what's truly important. She finally stopped and turned to face me. The early morning light cast a faint glow on her profile. And for the first time, she didn't look like the proud,
untouchable heiress I had come to know. I used to say, the countryside is just mountains and nothing else, it's just an idealistic dream, remember? Back then, I truly believed that. And I even mocked the idea. But, after actually stepping into the mountains and hearing the stories of the people who live here, I finally realized something. I finally understood how much this place has been cherished. And yet, I dismissed such a valuable land as a boring, insignificant place. When I think about that, I can't help but feel frustrated with myself. She tightens the laces of her sneakers and continues in a calm voice. I want to learn more about the thoughts of the people who grew up here and how they interact with nature. Because I was the one who denied it with my words, I have to take responsibility and face it properly. That's what I feel now. If all I had to do was help with my father's work, then I could have just followed the same profit-first approach. But now, I don't want to destroy it, I want to protect it. That's why, even if it means heading out before dawn, I want to go wherever I need to go. I follow her as she starts walking again without even pausing to catch her breath. Honestly, part of me wants to stop her, thinking it's too dangerous. But the determination in her eyes is undeniable. All right. Then I'll go with you. Let's check the map and plan a route that isn't too reckless. And we should also let Monica know. Geez, hurry up already. And if it gets too tough, you better tell me. I don't want you collapsing because of my selfishness. Hey, that's my line. She gives me the faintest smile at my response. Then, without another word, she presses forward. The woman in front of me now is nothing like the arrogant person who once looked down on me at that mixer. For a while, we continue walking in silence along the mountain path. Then, in a small voice, she begins to speak. You know, I used to look down on people I had no connection with. Probably because I was raised as a privileged city girl. I had all these baseless assumptions, like thinking people without a degree are nothing or that the countryside is just a bunch of mountains and nothing more. Her words make me widen my eyes for a moment. Hearing such an honest reflection from the same woman who once acted so high and mighty is surprising. But after actually talking to people, I realized how amazing they are. The workers in construction, the people who have lived here their whole lives. No matter their circumstances, they all keep moving forward, learning skills and wisdom that I never even considered. She pauses for a moment, lightly touching the back of her neck as if feeling the cool mountain breeze. And you too. Back at the mixer, I said awful things like high school graduates weren't worth anything. But the truth is, you're far more grounded in your work and life than I ever was. When I think about the way I used to act, I feel so ashamed of myself now. That's not true. I reply, a little unsure of how else to respond. Even I have only been pushing forward blindly all this time. I wouldn't say I've walked a path worth being proud of. But when I see the unwavering look in her eyes as she gazes at me, a strange warmth stirs in my chest. Even if you don't think so, to me, it is true. I spent so much time looking down on others. Now, I have to learn as much as I can to make up for that. Her words echo clearly in the still mountain air. The sound of our footsteps against the earth begins to form a steady rhythm again as we continue moving forward. So, I'm going to need you to stick with me a little longer. I want to check out the unmarked trails, the spring we passed earlier. I need to see it all for myself. It might be a hassle, but would you mind? Of course. I'm learning a lot too. Let's go. Seeing her smile again, just a little, I feel a genuine smile of my own forming. It felt like we were finally bridging the gap between us, one small step at a time. And so, like breaking through the darkness, we press on along the mountain path. The reason she's putting in so much effort, walking these trails and exploring every detail, is because she wants to understand the very land she once looked down on, but this time, in the right way. That much is clear. Later that afternoon, we stopped by a small tea house at the edge of the mountain for a break.
The woman running the kitchen is friendly, and when Monica orders some sweet red bean soup, she shares some with everyone.
Oh dear, young lady, why don't you try this too? Thank you very much.
Lily hesitates at first but accepts the offer with a small, grateful smile. But as I watch the scene unfold, I notice something off. The other customers are giving her cold looks.
Isn't that the girl who mocked the countryside before? Yeah, I think I heard something about that.
It was meant to be a whisper, but their voices carried surprisingly well. Apparently, word had spread about something Lily said a few days ago, something about how she had dismissed rural life as a fantasy.
The locals must have overheard it.
The air in the tea house suddenly feels tense, uncomfortable.
I heard she's from some big company in Tokyo.
Talking about coexistence with nature, bet it's just lip service.
Frankly,
I wish she'd just go back where she came from.
Feels like she's just here to look down on us.
The sarcasm is blatant, and even Lily freezes in place. Her face tightens as if she's been doused with cold water.
She doesn't even try to argue back.
Monica looks like she's about to step in, but I know I have to act first.
Excuse me, may I say something?
As I step forward, all eyes in the tea house shift toward me. We're here because we genuinely want to create something that respects the wishes of the people living here.
And she feels the same way. I understand that she may have said things before that upset you. But I glance at Lily.
The usual confidence she carries is gone, her shoulders slightly hunched as she stares at the floor.
She won't make the same mistake again. And honestly, she has no intention of looking down on this place anymore.
I'm asking you, if there's anyone willing to talk to us, to share what really matters about this town, we'd love to hear it.
We want to make sure we build something meaningful here.
Some of the townspeople still eye us warily, but after a moment, the older man who spoke first lets out a sharp breath through his nose and mutters.
Well, if you're gonna go that far, I suppose we can talk. But are you telling me she actually walked those mountain trails? Didn't she show up in heels? No. She changed into sneakers and hiked through the mountains for hours with me.
She was the one who said, if we want to protect nature, we need to start by stepping into it ourselves. Honestly, she's been pushing herself harder than even I have. The man raises his eyebrows, clearly surprised. His gaze drifts toward Lily, who still stands stiffly, uncertain how to react. If they'd imagined her as some spoiled city girl in heels, the sight of her now dressed down, dirt on her sneakers, must be a stark contrast.
Well, can't say I liked what she said before.
But I'll admit, if she's really been walking those trails, maybe she's not just blowing smoke. We'll listen, for now.
But we're not making any promises.
At those words, the tense atmosphere in the tea house begins to soften, even if not everyone has let go of their distrust.
I let out a quiet breath of relief. And then,
a faint voice was heard, and when I looked, I saw Lily stepping into the center of the tea house. She had her eyes lowered, but then she lifted them and looked straight at the residents, as if she had made up her mind.
I did say awful things about this town. That's a fact. And I'm sorry.
But after walking through these mountains, talking to the people who live here, I realized how much history and care goes into this place. I felt the warmth of this community, and I don't want to destroy that.
I don't want to take anything away.
I want to help share what makes this town special. As she bowed politely, everyone there looked surprised, as if they hadn't expected it. Then, the owner of the tea house hurries over, gently patting Lily's shoulder and helping her straighten up.
In a hushed voice, she murmurs, "Thank you."
And so, the commotion settled down for the time being, but the atmosphere remained somewhat somber.
Even so, not a single person tried to drive Lily away.
The fact that she was able to apologize on her own was a significant step forward. After that, before we left the tea house, a few residents approached us and said, "I don't really get it, but I'll listen this time." They also left us with words like, "Yeah, if you're trying to make this place better, I guess I don't mind."
As we walk back along the quiet mountain road, Lily remains silent for a long time.
Then, just barely above a whisper, she murmurs,
"Thank you." I didn't say anything and simply glanced at her sneakers.
After a brief silence, as if trying to cover up her embarrassment, Lily started walking a little faster. On the last night of our site visit, I find myself outside, staring at the sky. The stars are so clear.
"I didn't think you could see this many in Japan." "Whoa!"
I nearly jump at the sudden voice behind me.
It's Lily. Monica already went to bed. She was running around all day. Yeah, I respect her for that.
When someone puts that much effort in, people can't help but take them seriously.
Honestly, I'd love to have her at our office. I throw out the joke lightly, but Lily's reaction is unexpected.
Her face turns bright red, and before I can process it, she grabs my arm.
"What?" "Hey, I worked hard too. I asked questions, I hiked through the mountains." "Me? Do you even understand how big of a deal that is? Or does a high school graduate like you not get it?"
The words might be harsh, but there's no real malice in them. In fact, she's sulking, almost childishly. When I let out a small snort of laughter, Lily pouted even more and gripped my arm tightly. I left her hand as it was and started walking slowly.
Then, I stopped in front of a large tree. There are many long-lived cherry trees like this one in this area.
I heard that some were cut down when the previous facility was built.
That really makes me sad.
As I spoke quietly, gazing up at the cherry tree swaying against the night sky, I felt Lily's grip on my arm soften just a little.
I think that makes me sad too.
I don't really know why, but after talking to everyone, the thought of them losing something important just
doesn't feel right. That's why we'll make sure that doesn't happen. I'll make it work. I'm stubborn like that. Well, I guess it's my job to stick around and see just how much you can actually do, Henry.
She lets go of my arm and starts walking back toward the inn. Even in the darkness of midnight, I felt like I could vaguely see Lily smiling at me for the first time. I was happy, feeling like I had gotten to know her a little better. Thinking that maybe my feelings had reached her, I felt glad that we had come here together. But I never expected that decision would change her life so drastically. A few days after we returned from the site visit, I got an unexpected call from Lily. At first, I assumed it was work-related. But something felt off. She just said she needed to talk, and her voice had an unusual weight to it.
We decided to meet that night. By the time I finished work, Lily had come to the office.
She looked a bit solemn, different from her usual confident demeanor. I led her to a seat and started preparing coffee.
"Lily, did something happen at your company?"
She stayed silent for a moment, gripping her hands tightly. Then, she suddenly lifted her head, eyes locked onto mine.
"Henry, hire me." "What?" Wait, hold on. What about Anderson Construction? Did your father tell you to come here?" "No. I reported everything to Dad.
I told him everything I saw, everything I felt. I told him that I believed in your vision."
"And do you know what he said to me?" Lily's expression changed visibly. She was probably remembering what happened at that time.
Then, she began recounting the conversation exactly as it had happened.
Just a few hours earlier, Lily had been in her father's office, presenting her report.
However, after looking at the report, Mr. Anderson said this to her.
"Lily, what is the meaning of this? Are you telling me that, essentially, that young lad was right, proposing that our company should prioritize environmental conservation and coexistence?"
His voice was already laced with fury. Lily shifted slightly and, as if making up her mind, opened her mouth to speak. She tried to convey to Mr. Anderson exactly what she had seen on that land, the deep impression the residents' voices had left on her.
And the value that couldn't be measured by profit alone.
However, before she could finish, a loud bang echoed through the room as someone slammed their hand on the desk.
Business is about profit. Nothing else matters. I've drilled that into you since you were a child. If it doesn't make money, it's meaningless. Do you think environmental conservation pays the bills? And what's more, you were supposed to use that young man, not be swayed by him.
In contrast to Mr. Anderson, who was raising his voice, she couldn't find the right words and bit her lip. She hadn't expected such a strong rejection.
Have you really been swayed by the lowest of the low? If you're going to be this useless, then consider yourself disowned.
After declaring that in an unusually low voice, Mr. Anderson slammed the file shut and leaned back in his chair. His words lingered in the air like a sharp blade, leaving the room in complete silence. Her mouth opened, but no words came out.
Her throat was dry.
The only thing left between them was the thick stack of reports on his desk, a silent testament to everything she had worked to understand.
I'm frustrated.
With that, Lily fell silent. The thought that Mr. Anderson would cast aside even his own daughter for the sake of profit made my anger quietly simmer. Lily took a sip of coffee, then suddenly raised her voice as if she had made up her mind. I slammed my resignation down along with being disowned.
I don't even know why I got so angry. I never even questioned things before. Maybe I shouldn't have gone to the site. Every time I get rejected, that day flashes through my mind. I just keep thinking, if your vision of a place that connects people and nature became a reality, how happy would they be?
Her voice wavered, and her eyes glistened with unshed tears. Then, she straightened her back, formally facing me.
I won't obey my father anymore. I know I'm being selfish.
But please, just for this project, at least let me work under you.
I want to understand what it really means to connect people and nature.
She stood up and bowed deeply. If this had been right after our first meeting, I probably would have turned her down without a second thought. But I had seen how she gradually changed through our site visits. There was no reason not to accept Lily, who was holding back tears as she pleaded to break free from the world she grew up in and learn something new. Just as I opened my mouth to say, "All right, welcome aboard," she suddenly sniffled and mumbled,
"I've never begged for anything like this before. If I end up being completely useless, you can fire me." Whoa, hold on. Why are we already talking about firing you? You have no faith in yourself at all? Well, I was a total snob.
I kept throwing around high school graduate this, high school graduate that, and, I was awful.
It's so embarrassing to think about now.
Her face was flushed, and she rubbed her eyes roughly. Lily was holding back tears, her lips pressed together tightly, trying so hard not to let them fall.
Somehow, I found it a little endearing. Well, I won't say you were the absolute worst from the start, but yeah, you were pretty damn rude. You really remember all that? Fine. I admit it.
And I'll apologize for it.
I'm sorry. It's fine.
Honestly, I was a bit defensive back at that mixer, too.
But now that we're working together, what matters is what comes next, right? When I laughed, she furrowed her brows slightly, looking a bit dissatisfied. You're laughing a bit too much for someone I just apologized to. I'm being serious here. No, it's just, I can't believe you're the same person from back then.
Flustered, she quickly pulled out a handkerchief and covered her face.
The contrast between her usual composed, refined demeanor and her current panicked state was oddly amusing.
I barely stopped myself from laughing outright.
All right, then. Welcome aboard, Lily.
She finally finished wiping her eyes and looked up at me, letting out a small smile. It was so natural, so soft, that for a moment, my heart skipped a beat.
Thank you. I'll be in your care. A brief silence passed between us.
I felt the awkward atmosphere from before fade away as if it had never existed, replaced by a vibrant change.
And just like that, Lily officially became my employee. Well, since I had been working solo, it was more accurate to say my company doubled in size overnight.
She insisted on starting from scratch, learning everything like a brand new hire. Lily, who had struggled even with something as simple as answering the phone, spent her days in a constant rush. Her favorite phrase was, "I have no connections here." My guidance may have felt strict to her. There wasn't a day when I didn't worry that the job might become too hard for her.
But I had a feeling that she didn't want to work in an environment where people just went easy on each other.
At times like that, Keith and Monica were the ones who supported me.
Yo! Man, the office looks way livelier now. Henry, having a young woman around really brightens the place up, huh? Oh. And look who I ran into. Monica's here, too. Keith, Monica. When I heard you quit Anderson Construction, I was shocked. Have you gotten used to the job? Henry is at his busiest right now, you know. Yeah.
I need to adjust to regular work as soon as possible.
I think this is the first time in my life I've been sleep deprived.
But it's also the first time I've ever felt like praising myself this much.
As Lily continued chatting with Keith, Monica walked over to me.
Henry, she's changed. At home and at work, she used to act like a princess, completely obsessed with status and hierarchy. She used to believe people existed to serve her.
But now, she's working for herself and others. That's because of you.
No, she did that herself. She broke out of that shell on her own. I glanced over at Lily's desk, where stacks of notes and scribbled memos were piling up.
And I smiled.
A month had passed, and Lily was now able to handle the basic tasks on her own. Because of that, I was able to focus more on the resort reconstruction project. Our contract with Anderson Construction remained in place. I knew we needed to have a proper discussion again before things officially got underway. However, things had already begun to unfold. One afternoon, I returned from an errand to find Lily rushing toward me, her face pale.
Mr. Norton. We just got a call from the city. The deal to purchase the land from the previous owner has been canceled. What? Why now?
This project was based on the city buying the land of the closed resort facility and rebuilding it. I had been entrusted with designing the new facility under that plan. In other words, if the city backed out of the purchase, not only would all our plans be scrapped, but unless a solid buyer was found,
the land would be left abandoned.
I immediately called back, but the only response I received was that they had decided to drop the project.
Mr. Norton. Something's not right. This is too sudden, and they didn't even consult us.
As I sank into thought, Lily lowered her brows and looked at me, covering her mouth with her hand.
It might be my father. Anderson Construction is no stranger to pressure tactics and underhanded deals.
Even though she had cut ties with him, Lily still looked apologetic.
I gave her a light pat on the shoulder. Even if that's true, you're part of this team now. You have nothing to apologize for. We have a meeting with Anderson Construction in 2 days. We'll get our answers then. But my father. He's far more cunning than you think, Henry. He might be planning to crush you. I gave her a reassuring smile. It was highly likely that Anderson Construction was behind all of this. I had to get to the bottom of it by the day after tomorrow.
If I didn't, that place would be turned into something that would destroy nature.
And that was something I absolutely had to prevent. Lily and I did everything we could. But Anderson Construction's influence was overwhelming, and in the end,
we were forced to head to their headquarters for negotiations with barely any leverage on our side. The Anderson Construction building stood tall, rising above the rest in a prime location in the city center. For Lily, this was a familiar place, yet her expression was tense. At the reception, we were treated like complete outsiders. We were then led into an extravagant meeting room.
According to Lily, this room was reserved only for welcoming VIPs from overseas. Tension filled the air. Without even knocking, Mr. Anderson entered the room. And this was how he treated people he was supposed to be doing business with. I stood up and bowed, but he ignored me completely, heading straight to the largest chair in the room and dropping into it with a loud thud. I knew I couldn't let myself be intimidated. I had to speak first. But of course, this was a man who had built this company from the ground up. He wasn't someone to be underestimated. I apologize for how things have unfolded, but it's already decided. As you may have heard, that project is no longer under the city's control. We have secured an exclusive contract to handle it ourselves. That's all there is to discuss. I have another meeting, so if you'll excuse me. Wait a minute, Mr. Anderson. This doesn't make sense. Why did the city suddenly pull out? Why did this become an exclusive project for your company? I demand official documentation as proof. Dad. Well, Mr. Anderson, you're planning to do business the same way as always, just chasing profit, aren't you? Please, stop. Don't destroy that place. Neither my argument nor Lily's desperate plea seemed to reach him. As I stood there, the image of the lush landscapes and the faces of the residents flashed through my mind, the same vision Lily must have seen when she was cut off from her father. It felt like we had lost. But then, there was a knock at the door. A secretary entered. Excuse me, sir. Mr. Norton's associates have arrived. I have brought them here. Associates? What, did you bring some locals? Ha ha ha. Go ahead, let them in. Mr. Anderson, fully confident in his victory, didn't even bother to check who they were before waving them in. But I hadn't arranged for anyone to come. As confusion filled my mind, a familiar voice rang out. Sorry for being late. Wow, Mr. Anderson, that's quite the impressive chair you've got there today. It's been a while, Mr. Anderson. Keith. Monica. It was the two of them. Both Lily and I were stunned, but the most shocked of all was Mr. Anderson himself. Keith. You left this company without my permission, and now you dare to come back? And that idiot next to you. I don't know what you think you're doing, but this conversation is over. I had no idea what was about to happen, or what they were about to do. The first to act was Monica. She pulled out a stack of files from her bag. The moment Mr. Anderson saw the labels on them, his expression changed completely. Monica, her tone steady and unwavering, began speaking. These are records of financial transactions, evidence of bid rigging. This one contains proof of your coercion and financial pressure on subcontractors. And this file lists all the details of your land deals over the past 15 years. What? This is nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Anderson lunged forward to snatch the files, but he tripped against the table and fell hard. Looking down at him, Monica continued. I gathered these while I was still working here. And with the help of an NPO that handles land-related cases, I've been compiling evidence ever since. These documents prove, without a doubt, that you are a corrupt businessman. There was an intensity in her voice. A fierce determination completely unlike the usual warm and gentle Monica. Her fists clenched so tightly her nails dug into her palms as she steadied her breathing. Henry, Lily, I'm sorry. I didn't do this to help you too. I've been collecting this evidence all along because of my own revenge. Revenge. Lily averted her gaze from Monica, her expression complicated. My mother. She endured every unreasonable demand, serving in the Anderson household while raising me. I wanted to get her out of that prison-like house as soon as possible, so I studied desperately and got into a national university. Just so I could compete with you people who put so much value on academic prestige. That image of my mother being oppressed while your family treated it as normal.
It's been burned into my mind all these years.
Monica fired off her words without even pausing for breath.
Then, gradually, she seemed to regain her composure. Mr. Anderson, now faced with undeniable evidence of his corruption and the sheer force of Monica's emotions, was nearly slipping out of his chair.
Revenge, you say? We took your mother in, gave her a place to live. You wouldn't have even survived without us. Don't be ridiculous. I haven't lost. I will keep winning. I will keep using people like you as stepping stones to rise even higher.
His voice was laced with the pride of someone who had spent a lifetime building his empire.
To an outsider, it might sound like nothing more than arrogance.
But it was the desperate clinging of a man who refused to let go of what he had built.
And everyone in the room could feel it. Dad! Stop it already!
Lily had been silently holding a stiff expression, but as if she could no longer endure it, she suddenly stepped toward Mr. Anderson.
Her brows furrowed deeply, as if recalling her father scolding her as a child, yet there was a determined look in her eyes. Dad! You need to accept it.
I may have just grown older, but I've realized that this idea of winning at all costs isn't the right path.
I've listened to so many people, seen so many places. And thanks to Henry, I now understand that I still have room to grow.
She paused for a moment, taking a deep breath.
Mr. Anderson didn't lash out in frustration this time.
He simply watched her intently.
That's why, Dad. Let's start over. There's always a way, right?
I'll be by your side no matter what.
Let's rebuild together. Let's turn this company into one we can truly be proud of again. I want to help make that happen.
They were words so honest and direct that her former, arrogant self as a wealthy heiress could never have imagined saying them.
In Lily's voice, her determination was unmistakable.
The woman who once flaunted her education and status had now learned what it meant to truly care for others.
Lily. Mr. Anderson's voice came out as a low murmur.
From where I stood, I couldn't see his face, but I could tell his shoulders were trembling slightly.
Was it from anger, or something else? Dad. This isn't about winning or losing.
What you've accomplished, building this company from nothing, it's incredible, and I truly respect you for it.
But along the way, maybe you lost sight of something important. And I only just realized that myself. So please, let's start over. The air between them shifted. Something irreversible was changing in that moment.
That's when Keith, who had been silent until now, finally stepped forward.
Mr. Anderson, let's make things clear. I should have introduced myself earlier. I work at an auditing firm. My name is Keith. Auditing. Yes.
I was previously involved in an investigation into your company, though it was left in a gray area back then.
But this time is different.
There's plenty to dig into your finances, your business operations, and I intend to do just that.
Keith glanced in my direction, and I nodded. Then, I took a step forward and addressed Anderson myself.
Mr. Anderson, I know this might sound like the naive words of a young man, but I don't believe you were always like this.
I visited the earlier buildings constructed by Anderson Construction.
I was truly moved by the quality and care that went into them.
Please, why not start over and build something meaningful again?
For a long moment, Mr. Anderson said nothing. Then, slowly, he stood up. His gaze swept across the room, lingering on each of us and finally, settling on Lily.
To think I'd be swayed by the words of a bunch of kids. Ha! Lily, thank you for calling me your father. Dad.
With a determined stride, Mr. Anderson walked out of the room, his demeanor now carrying a different kind of resolve. Lily, who had been slumped by her chair, was pulled up by Monica.
Monica. Thank you. Thank you for giving my father, Mr. Anderson, a chance. To be honest, I was planning to leak everything. I wanted to destroy the Anderson, wipe it all out. Honestly, I regret ever stepping into Henry's office. I didn't want to see you working so hard, Lily. I didn't want to see you grow. Do you remember? When we were little, we cried together watching the cherry trees being cut down for expansion. Back then, I thought you weren't just some stuck-up heiress. Maybe you were just trapped in a cage all along. Tears streamed down Monica's face as she gripped Lily's hands tightly. Lily, in turn, squeezed back just as firmly. Monica, you're one of the people who changed me. You're important to me. So, can we be real friends this time? I've been thinking the same thing. As they awkwardly embraced, Keith and I exchanged a glance and laughed. 6 months later, the resort redevelopment project was successfully restarted. Parts of it had already opened to the public, transforming into a park where both locals and visitors could enjoy themselves, whether alone or with their families. With hot spring foot baths, restaurants, and scenic views, it had already started attracting attention from road trippers and bikers alike. But more than anything, this place, surrounded by nature, had become a source of healing for everyone who visited. The season of cherry blossoms is just around the corner. Surely, even more people will come to see them. Anderson Construction has been reviewing its past, tracing back over the last 20 years, investigating its existing structures, and taking appropriate actions against the companies and individuals involved. It became such a major issue that it even made headlines. Of course, there are many problems that neither apologies nor money can resolve. But the Mr. Anderson himself is personally taking responsibility for all of it. According to what Lily told me, her father said, "Rebuilding Anderson Construction as a proper construction company will be my final job. It will be a long journey, but I look forward to the day when the company regains its former pride." As for Lily, she's still working at my office. Her days are spent going back and forth, constantly busy with the resort facility project. Today, we came together to check on its progress. Mr. Norton, the cherry blossoms are about to bloom soon. With the expanded entrance area, the cherry tree-lined path will be beautiful. Oh, I need to send Monica a picture. Over the past 6 months, the relationship between Lily and Monica has changed a lot. Or perhaps, on the surface, nothing has changed at all. But when I listen to Lily talk about Monica, friendship feels like the most fitting word to describe them now. And Monica's words reflected that as well. On the last day of her contract with my firm, she called me over. "Henry, you know, Lily reminds me of a cherry tree." Maybe the real Lily has always been waiting for someone who would let her bloom freely. And now, she's finally found that person. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. Monica. And just you wait, I'm going to bloom into a flower so beautiful it'll surprise you. Thank you, Henry. She said it with a radiant smile before walking away without hesitation. Now, she's been promoted and is thriving on the front lines of her company. Mr. Norton. Mr. Norton? Henry. Ha? Oh, sorry. Ha, it's been a while since you called me by my name. I was trying to be brave and call you that, but then you became a CEO, and now it feels weird. Oh. Look. That cherry blossom is blooming. Oh, you're right. Let's wait until they're in full bloom. As I admired the delicate blossoms, I suddenly felt a gentle touch on my arm. When I looked down, Lily was staring at me, her face bright red. When the cherry blossoms are in full bloom. I've been wanting to see them with you somewhere bright this time. But... no, wait. In the daylight. It's too embarrassing. She tried to pull away, but I didn't let go of her hand. Turning even redder, she looked back at me. Instead of holding her arm, I softly took her hand in mine. The cherry blossoms have only just started to bloom. And every year, they'll bloom again in full glory. If we can stand together and watch over them like this, that would make me really happy. What about you, Lily?
Her voice trembled as she held back tears, then she suddenly threw her arms around me. I wrapped my other arm around her, holding her close.
Lily, look. They're beautiful.
The wind carried delicate cherry blossoms around us, dancing through the air. Beyond the sky we gazed up at together. I felt as if I could see a future where the nature facility was in full bloom with cherry blossoms, filled with people smiling and enjoying themselves. Fate, whether kind or cruel, may feel more significant or more disposable as we grow older.
But in the end, I want to live a life where I cherish the person I have become, shaped by every connection I have made.